All right, I think there's at least one camera up and running in our overflow courtroom now. So I think we're ready to get the jury out. If you want to. Ms. Persfield said there was, so I believe her. Miss Hilton, did you figure out whether that one exhibit was actually admitted?
Yes, Your Honor, we were able to figure out that it was admitted, excuse me, as 60G.
Okay.
60G.
All right, thank you. We're ready for the jury. Was it Wednesday when they were last here?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. When you were last with us on Wednesday of last week, as you recall, the state had rested. I'm now going to ask the defense whether they wish to present evidence. Mr. Sharp, does the defense have evidence to present on behalf of Mr. Stillwell?
Your Honor, not wish.
Yeah, they're not doing it. Oh, wow. They're not even going to have a
And
case in
Ms.
chief.
Weinstein, does the defense wish
They
to
are
present
really
evidence on
gambling.
behalf of Mr.
They must really think they
Your
don't.
Honor, we do
The
not feel necessary.
prosecutor
All right, thank you very
doesn't have
much.
a case.
All right, that means that the evidence is closed.
And from
the
most of
next
it I've
step in
seen,
this
they
case
don't.
is the closing arguments, because the state has the burden of
It's
proof
been a
in this
dumpster
case.
fire.
The state
If
will
you ever
make
see a dumpster on
a
fire driving by,
initial
that's it.
closing argument. The defense will then have an opportunity to present any closing argument that they wish to present, and the defense, if the defense does present closing, then
She's
the
hoping they
state
don't.
will then have a final opportunity at summation. All right, so I'm not sure who's going to present the opening on behalf of the state, but whomever that is, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Before you start.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is going to be amusing to some of you, but overflow actually is 5D and not 1D. So
Amusing.
maybe that's why I was saying it the whole time. All right, you can go ahead, Mr. Adkins. Sorry.
Thank you. Let me turn this microphone on, Your Honor. I'll forget. Good morning, Mr. Chair. I wanted to talk to you about what we've learned YSL is about. Two words come to mind. First word, deception.
Oh, great. It's not on the mic.
Destruction, death.
Fantastic.
Youth who get enamored with what is presented publicly and then deceive and they become a part of the criminal enterprise. Deception for law enforcement to not uncover the actions that they commit. And deception in this very courtroom, the witnesses that are set right before you, to try to continue that enterprise. Intimidation, the public videos we've seen about people that they label as rats, people that they label as snitches, snitching, and that repeated
Is he saying snitching?
overt, out in the open, or subtle. That
Yeah, put a
do a crime
fucking dang mic on your butt.
the destruction
Yeah.
has multiple parts. You've heard from
Hell, he's got one. It ain't turned on.
that often similar pockets in the city have effect.
Man, these
From
people.
stealing drugs,
Oh,
robbery,
man.
shooting, shell casings, windows, doors, refrigerators, cars, over and over. That's the destruction. Then you've heard about the death. Jeffrey Williams himself said, YSL, in this video after he says murder gang, someone right next to him says YSL Closing tail. But also, you've heard about 3 murders. Jonathan Thomas, Chanel Drinks, and Martin Hunt. That is what YSL is going about. Now, I'm going to talk to you about count 1 RICO and criminal street gang. And so when I am complete, again, he's helped me come up and talk.
Oh, no. Why can't you just do it, bruh?
Now,
Nobody needs
what
to
I
hear
just
from
said,
Love Hilton.
it's not just my words. This is the deception, intimidation, destruction, and death that I just spoke to you about. Murder gang in my slime is above the law. But in Fulton County, nobody is above the law, and that's why you're here.
Ooh, no one's above the law.
Y'all already know YSL we dead and pale, bitch. Murder gang, bitch. Yeah.
Slap, slap, slap. Whatever the hell that means.
Those are their own words, murder gang. What they are publicly stating at the enterprise and street gang. And I may use both those terms interchangeably. They are valid.
I don't think y'all got more than us. It's dead now.
This is your video?
There's a we and a us.
Usually they don't do this in closings. They'll just talk.
We don't. In the day, I argue from evidence we presented amply throughout.
This is why I sell. Anything's possible.
Atlanta Blood Gang, Fish Gang, Nine Dudes,
It's
Riot
crazy.
Gang, that group. And lastly, after publicly bragging and boasting about murders, what is their viewpoint on being held
Excuse me.
accountable? And let me take their own words. Don't just take mine.
This be a murderer. Pay my lawyer 30 for that. Pay my son's a blood law.
Nope.
Ain't no court law.
That's saying my slimes are above the law. So now I'm going to acquit you with the duty as juror. So that
God, I hate that they played that stupid music. It's going to get me struck. Man.
And understand how to organize the evidence that we present. So that's what I'm going to here to do with you today. So I'm going to take a step back. In general, jurors' duties is to honestly seek the truth. You've heard evidence, testimony, physical items. It's not to seek out; it's to seek the truth. You determine, how you handle and weigh the evidence. And I'm going to highlight some things for you so that you can understand some connections between some of these evidence. There's connections between the shootings, connections between crimes, locations, victims, and accomplices. That's important for Count Lugo. That's what I'm going to walk you through about right now. The duty to deliberate. When all of this is done, all of y'all will go back there and speak with one another. Speak freely with one another. Go through the evidence and talk about what you've heard throughout the trial and talk with fellow jurors about the evidence as you reach your verdict. And like I said, seek truth. Now, I'm going to explain to you in a couple minutes about what you can and can't consider. So everything outside of this
This is going to take a while.
comes up in almost every trial. Sometimes
Get your pillow for your butts because it's going to need it.
Points on a witness. You like the witness. You don't like the witness. You like the police. You don't like the police. You think about some issue that comes up in a case that's not about the evidence and the law. You disagree with the law. All of those things you can't consider. What you can consider, instead of populating the middle, is the evidence, the testimonies, the physical items, the videos, the wiretaps, the jail calls.
What he's talking about with things that you can't consider, he's trying to say that he cannot do judicial or jury annulment or jury nullification. I always took the viewpoint the jury is the state. It is the people of the state of Georgia sitting in there, 12 of them representing the state. They don't think the law is valid. They should be able to do that, but we've taken that from them. And so he's covering that, which is ridiculous. They should be able to do what they want. They're the jury. They're the fact finders. That's it. But
It's not lost on me the length of the trial. And
I hope it's not lost on you.
Explain to you my genuine understanding and frustration with how long you all sat on this. And what I thought about, because when we initially came on, it was 6 to 9 months. Now we're here 12 months later, and that is a significant difference. And there's one time in my life that came to mind about this. I couldn't do this again today, but I ran one marathon. And I got there that day, and I was 50 many years ago. And when I'm in line with one of my best friends who encouraged me to run, I see people much older than me. I would call them old, but they've been pushing 90, marathon. And so he gave me that look, and I said, all right, I'll do marathon with you. And during that, especially if you're going to have that day run the full, I had moments where I wanted to quit. I had moments I wanted to walk. I had moments where I wasn't ready, I wasn't prepared, I didn't sign up for this. Technically, I agreed to the marathon. And as I got to the end, like we are here, I said, if I walk off on mile 21 or 20, all of this will be for nothing. And I will regret that. So with this time, I ask you to see it through, finish strong. And by that, I mean listen to the closing arguments and deliberate with one another in the evidence. Because you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the victims, and you owe it to your duty as juror. And like I said, what I wanted to do, because I can't go back and change the hands of time, I can't, is make this time valuable and give you the tools you need. Because you've heard a lot about RICO, but you've not yet had anyone explain what that means. So that's my goal, and that's what I'm here to do, is to help that you can understand the law, how it fits with these evidence, so that you can deliberate and reach the only reasonable conclusion that these defendants and these co-conspirators are guilty of count one, conspiring to commit RICO. So I'm going to walk through that with you.
even on 1.5, this is slow.
After that click, so it's going to catch up with me. But like I said, you consider the evidence and testimony, you don't consider what is.
I'm going to end it with a strike. I can see it coming. They're going to play that stupid music.
Now, burden proof. The state has always had the the burden of proof. The proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a burden that I own. It's how it should be. And so the state, the burden of proof rests with it until we prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. What is a reasonable doubt? Everyone's heard that term, but what does it actually mean? It's not a mathematical certainty. There's no algorithm or specific number. It is a doubt that's reasonable. It's not vague. And so this presumption, I use a quote, right, where you're presumed innocent, everyone is, until the state has proven your guilt of whatever crime, in this case, RICO, murder, street gang, beyond a reasonable doubt. For some of y'all, when you're back here deliberating, thinking through the evidence, you may have realized halfway through my speech today, when you understand RICO, that they're guilty. You might come to that conclusion months ago. You may have come to that conclusion in terms of where we are in the evidence as you walk through it, at a different point. But when the state proves, as we have beyond a reasonable doubt, that cloak of innocence goes away. And that's what you jurors are here to decide. And reasonable doubt, like I said, is reasonable. You don't seek doubt, you seek the truth. And it's a doubt, it means just what it says. If I were to, I wouldn't do this, but if I took something from down court, say her coffee pot, and there's a security camera right there. If all of y'all saw me do this, if I had a trial, I never called one of y'all. I'm on trial for stealing down court reporters coffee mug. If you had a trial with just that surveillance video, and it clearly showed me unmasked taking a lead, you wouldn't need all the witnesses. Or if you had a reverse, you didn't have a surveillance video, but you had an eyewitness or circumstantial evidence. Just because you don't have a piece of item or evidence doesn't necessarily mean reasonable doubt. It means just what it says. It's a reason. I'm going to show you an illustration that something we all recognize, which is a dollar bill. And you're going to see pieces of this dollar bill missing. And all of you will immediately recognize what it is. And like I said, it's not a mathematical certainty. It is reasonable doubt. That's a dollar bill, right? If you have pieces of the puzzle, and some of y'all may like puzzles that are removed, everyone knows that that's a $1 bill. There's no reasonable doubt that that is a $1 bill, even though almost 50% is wrong. That's just a visual illustration to prove point. Direct and circumstantial evidence. So direct evidence, physical items, it's what's said in this witness box before you, personal observations, that's all direct. Circumstantial evidence can be cell phone records, where people are within a general radius. Ankle monitor data, what someone's actions after, who's calling you, who's texting you. That can circumstantially prove and lead to a conclusion. Whereas you can use both, so all different ways, direct, circumstantial, more or less together, and they found
Direct and circumstantial. Direct would be, you find you come into a room and there's a dead body with a firearm, and they got a bullet wound to the head. You have direct evidence of a firearm. Circumstantial would be you go outside, there's snow and footprints, and there's a yellow puddle. Chances are, circumstantially, someone went to pee. That's what we would deduce. So that's it. For those of you who don't know it, and I'm sure you do, that's a very rudimentary difference.
you always have your common sense. You always have problems today. You can deliberate to make reasonable deductions from both direct and play off of that. Like I said, these are all direct evidence. Think what you saw, what you heard. If you were to physically touch a firearm or a shell casing, that would be tangible. That's all direct. A good example for circumstantial is imagine once a week, twice a week, you all go and pump gas. You pull up to the pump, you know your car has the E, it's flashing red. You go, put your credit card in, and walk inside. You come out and you start pumping gas. And then when you leave, you put your credit card in, you hear it kind of click loudly, you know it's done. You put it back in, you drive off, and all of a sudden what was on E is now full, right? You never saw the gas inside. But you know, circumstantially,
that's different.
That's a classic example. They smell gas, but you never actually see it. You could, but most of the time you don't. That's circumstantial evidence. It can be quite strong, like a medicine. So it doesn't have any more or less weight than most of these things. Testimony of a single witness, if believed, is enough to establish that. Take Terraria Hill, Act 61.
Judge doesn't determine solely the credibility. The jury does. It's up to the jury to determine whether the witness is credible.
So that's one example of a single witness establishing there's only one fact. There is none. But in that case, that testimony will be enough to establish the evidence. So keep that in mind. This testimony is important. Like I said, you determine credibility. So you got to ask yourself, why did certain people testify how they did what they said? Now, I'll argue, you think about what people said before they were indicted, before their friends were indicted, before sitting in a courtroom with you and people that they know well. What do people say when no one's looking on a wiretap, on a jail call? That, to me, is quite illuminating of how they really feel. Think about why people would testify. Why people would either genuinely not remember what happened. I'm sure all of y'all remember quite well my kind of long back and forth with Gentleman D'Angelo White, right? Where we played a 911 call and he says this is D'Angelo White. He wouldn't even acknowledge that. There was a lot of back and forth. Why would he not come in here and testify about his friend, Dexter Montgomery, getting half his head shot off? He was hit. He called 911. Why? You determine that. Now,
Let me rule 601 for witness credibility.
Y'all just sit right here. There's a reason you're supposed to consider because
Y'all can Google it. Just Google federal rules of evidence, Georgia rules of evidence. Should be rule 601.
Right? You have some, I'll use some from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Like they come in and test an item. They don't usually know the defendant. They don't know the case. They're just doing their job. They don't have, any state from one outcome or the other. They don't know. A random citizen or Doug Bailey talking about the ankle on that. He's just reading that. Those kind of witnesses, I argue to, if he's not credible because they don't have anything to gain, they have nothing to lose. Think about people who do and how that would impact their opportunity for no that. If someone hangs out with one another, like Larry Zappi, we saw this photograph, using photo after photo, Shan Stillwell, Monte Kendrick, Luciano Garcia, if someone hangs out with someone, probably reasonable that he would know what they're up to. It would be fine. Or if you had someone who only hang out with somebody one time, how would it be reasonable they know all their pieces of art? That's just common sense that things you think about. Now, I'm gonna give you an example.
So nigga, a lot of their mama, a lot of their kids, a lot of their brothers and sisters, they didn't get ready in the courtroom and tell God is true. Don't get it. Y'all didn't get fucking killed, bro.
You snitching bitches?
From me and YSL.
That's what's said outside of the court. These are all witnesses who testified that were either co-conspirators or indicted on the stage. And ask yourself, you could know it just as well as I right before the state act by saying game. The words music group, you know it's not come off. Well, I've never heard that. I said game. I didn't say GAG, even though you just heard them say game. Think about that and why people would come in here and think about what they said. They exactly said that these two defendants confessed to you making money on time and neither heard. You don't think he's gonna come here and back off that? Think about Will Lee, the ragging the voting upload. You put that on the team. The things he knows when he's sitting up here don't sound good in trial with his friends, other gang members, coaches. So he's gonna back off. Think about Walter Murphy and Tony Sled. When he did his plea agreement, said that he had knowledge that someone was involved with the murder of Don Thomas, and backed up off of it, right? Why? Think about why. And think about they know the feelings that these defendants have about people who come and tell on. And sometimes they slip up. You remember Antonio Summers, who testified pretty recently, he didn't know Willie Lee's name. So he said, what's his line? He changed it. Stop. He took the law and he was big. He said, what's his line name? Those kind of clues or slip ups, remember those, because they're important. Here's another example. This is Diamante Kendrick on the left with a hat, as Big Rat, Big Ass. On the right is defendant Stillwell's tattoo. Over here, you heard that, co-sign. And on his chest, the price of loyalty is well. The price of disloyalty is death. So these witnesses who say incriminating things about them in a police station or outside court, when they come in here and are sitting in a witness box 10 feet from them, how do you think they know this? That's these defendants' own words about people who come in and testify against themselves well. That's their feelings on it. Things that these witnesses know very well. Ken Copeland. This is Ken Copeland outside of the criminal court.
Last words, shout outs before we get you out of here.
Shout out to the game. YSL for life.
What's up, Woody?
These are photographs he's had. He has known Shan
Ooh,
Stillwell.
little Woody.
Most of these photos.
That fool's making bank.
Look at these photos with Ken. These are all photos of Ken Copeland and both of these defendants in trial. They are twins. They know each other.
No Kenny.
Ken Copeland would not want to say something about you because of his bias and motive that want her. That's just common sense. You think about that. When you hear what people say to a police station, which is technically forgiveness, or what they say in the court. Well, there's that. Outside.
Yeah, big Bruce Knight trying to take over. Oh, fuck you mean? I got all my niggas with me when Bruce Knight. Where we at, y'all? Bruce, yeah, Bruce Knight. Fuck on time. When I'm for you, niggas. Yeah, we're gonna beat right now.
Now, that's video from May. Roughly February, March, April, 4 months after the murder of Don Thomas. That's what Ladarius Zappi said. You don't think he knows who did what? I argue to you. And then when he comes to the court, right, he doesn't recognize his take emotion, or he makes jokes about the color green, things that he thinks will hurt. You all pick up on this. I saw you write this. You can see their reaction. You can see someone uncomfortable, comfortable. All of those things you all are equipped with and can use when you weigh testimony. Parties to a crime. This is the principle that's going to come up in this case. Parties to a crime. Think about this. 4 people go to rob a bank. One of them is a getaway driver. One of them, I'm going to go run and get the money. The third one's going to go and do a distraction. And the fourth one has a gun, in case it's legal. The driver never gets out of the car. They get to the bank. The driver goes in, get the money. The security guard realizes it's a robbery, pulls out his gun. The guy with the gun behind him shoots and strikes the security guard. And then they all 4 get away and leave. As parties to a crime, they all play a role or piece in that crime. So they would all be legally guilty of that murder because facts came out of the trial. So party to a crime is not necessarily the person who pulled the trigger. It could be the driver. Now, this is going to show you an illustration of what I talked about.
Remember, y'all, they got to prove an existence of an enterprise and that it's illegal or corrupt.
Either intentional murder or say the security guard shot and killed one of the robbers. You get felony murder that comes up. And so all of them would be guilty of this, that, matter of that. So in this case, what Copeland and Zachary say about Lieutenant Kendrick is he was driving the Infiniti 250. If he's driving that Infiniti 250 while Shan Stillwell and Isaac Mullen are shooting 7.62 and 9mm shell casings.
Then they got to show a pattern of racketeering activity. So that'll be his next he talks about. Scheme or plan. And they got to be related to one another.
This microphone.
Hey, we can hear.
Yes, sir. If you let me know if that helps.
Finally.
I got to fix this belt buckle here real quick.
Of course, they also have to go through predicate acts too. Underlying predicate acts.
Sorry. I want to talk about the crimes that I'm going to talk about. So in green is what I'm going to talk to you about. Which count 51 is criminal street gang. Count 50 is criminal street gang of defendant Stillwell.
And then the predicate acts must be connected to operation or management of that enterprise, of that racketeering operation or that gang. The defendant must have participated in the conduct of the enterprise through those activities. They've got to have specific intent. They've got to prove that, which is why she dumped some of the charges. They couldn't even prove it. There has to be, usually there does not have to be an injury to a specific victim. Yeah, I think here we've got a couple murder charges.
He's on the right, and Kendrick is on the left, and count 1 RICO applies to both. So both are charged with the murder of Donovan Thomas. Kendrick has this count 57 participation in criminal street gang activity for the marijuana and firearms of street gang activity during the commission of a felony for the May 9th, 2022. These street gang charges, which I'm going to talk to you about at the end, pertain to the murder of Chanel Drinks, a gang-related murder that the evidence has shown Shannon committed along with Meek Garlington, Miles Farley, and Carnavius Nickel. But first, I'm going to talk about RICO, which is count 1, which both are charged with. So I want to talk to you about conspiracy in general. And I definitely think the microphone's working now, Your Honor. So one crime, you rob someone, you do an arson, you would look at that case. Did they go and set fire? Did they go and steal? One specific place, time, and perpetrator. You've already heard about a conspiracy to do armed robbery when I use that bank robbery analogy. RICO is no different in terms of this. The general concept is they're charged with conspiracy to commit racketeering. So I'm going to have to explain to you what is RICO, what is conspiracy to commit RICO, and then you as jurors, with the evidence that's been presented, will reach the only reasonable conclusion that they're guilty of that count. But you need to know what RICO is first. And there's 2 ways to violate RICO. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it bite by bite through RICO so you can understand the 2 ways that RICO can be committed and what conspiracy to commit RICO is. And we'll walk through this together. I've already explained conspiracy in general. Now, this bank, I've used the bank now. If this group who robbed the bank will have to do some sophisticated mob syndicate, if those 4 are just sitting around and say, let's be a bank robbery boy, maybe we'll sell drugs on the side, we'll shoot people who ride the bank group, we're going to call ourselves the BRC, bank robbery group. If they got tattoos of BRC, they got necklaces of BRC, they say, hey, we are BRC. If they went and all knowingly and willingly agreed to be a part of that, knowing that a pattern of racketeering, I will explain to you, he admitted that concept, what we're talking about. Not any different in general, conspiracy and RICO. And when you put the 2 together, that's what they're charged with. So let's walk through. This is from the indictment. You will have a view later. I'm not going to read off this stuff. Page 12 of the indictment.
Let's see what it says. Oh, here we go. The offense, charged with the offense of conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, OCGA 16, that's the criminal statute, title 1614-4C. The set accused together with the unindicted co-conspirators, that's going to be Lil Woody and the other dude, several of them, I think, in the state of Georgia, county of Fulton, on or between the 24th day of January 2013, 8th day of May 2022, did unlawfully conspire, acquire, maintain directly and indirectly an interest in, remember I said they have an interest and controlling the United States currency, so using the currency as the glue, and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity, showing a corrupt organization in violation of the RICO statute. It's or underlying statute, 1614-4. That is, yes, that is the RICO statute. That's I believe the first part of it. And while associated with an enterprise that unlawfully conspired to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity in violation of OCGA 1614-4B, as described below and incorporated by reference as if fully set forth herein, contrary to the law of the state, the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. Remember, it's not against a person. You'll always see this. They'll say, oh, my client is the prosecutor say, my client's the victim. No, it's not. It's the freaking stupidest thing I've ever heard. This is the client right here. They represent the state of Georgia. Contrary to the law of said state, the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. So whatever murder, whatever charge there is, that's the victim. It's the state. It's the law, the system.
The criminal objectives of the conspiracy laws, and that they violated the subsection A and subsection B. We're going to talk about. So remember page 12 of the indictment because it will come up multiple times. So what is knowingly and willfully joined? Look at what they do, what they say, and crimes that they commit. If you want to figure out if the bank robbery crew or if YSL is someone knowingly and willingly joined them, that's Kendrick on the bottom with slat on his left forearm and a snake that goes from his stomach to his neck. And YSL a little bit underneath his abdomen. Do you think he knowingly and willfully joined YSL? He got a permanent tattoo on 3 different spots of his body, one of which is close to his face. That is something you can use in court. Oftentimes, in criminal conspiracies, they don't have a written contract. They don't have a, you're not going to have that coffee room table. Let's all agree to get criminal enterprise.
Oh, let's wear our pants around our ass, which means in prison, by the way, that you like to take it from behind. That's just what it means. Prison has much different rules than we do.
So use that Kendrick and Mill next to a slack receipt for the red bandana. How they act, say, and do over time, those are the clues to know that someone's willingly joined the conspiracy. So let's break this down a little bit further. It came out again, Your Honor. This is probably the easiest element while we switch this mic. Two or more conspirators. Oh, thanks for starting. Thank you. So, that you can't have conspiracy with one person. Right? So, I think we all can agree that should be an element that's easy to check. You've heard from ample. It doesn't have to just be the 28 indicted co-conspirators. You will see in that indictment that it states on page 12 that it also includes unnamed or unindicted co-conspirators. If you find that they're part of the conspiracy.
Look like that top left one was Lil Woody.
But yes, one of the elements, beyond a reasonable doubt, is key. I think that element, I'm not going to spend people time on that one. You've heard from ample.
And your mic sucks.
You see in witness stand that are two or more of YSL. This just illustrates that.
Turn it up.
Now, agreement. This is another important element of kind of understand. How do you know that someone agrees? Like I said, it doesn't have to be expressed. It doesn't have to be where did they sign or YSL that on the joint. I mean, you rarely see stuff like that. There's such a measure in this case. It's mutual but unspoken understanding. I say actions speak louder than words. If you want to know how someone believes or they agree, what do? So I'm going to show you some examples of agreement. And a lot of the evidence that I'll talk about, it has multiple purposes. So we will talk about and you will see what can prove agreement can also prove that they knowingly and willfully join. See, I'll be working on this. So, yes, Your Honor. Sounds like it's working now. So, what else can you use? Remember we talked about circumstantial evidence? Circumstantial evidence inferred from the nature of the acts done, relation of the parties, and the interest of the conspirators. What do they have to gain? Is it for something to further the group's interest? How do you know someone agrees? Look at what they do. And I argue to you that the evidence has shown that they've all knowingly and willfully agreed. Take where we started, or take the two murders. Shannon Stillwell, January 10, 2015, murders Diamond Thomas. March 14, 2022, Shannon Stillwell, with 3 other YSL members in both times, murders Shamel Drinks. If you have to ask yourself, did he knowingly and willfully agree to be a part of YSL criminal enterprise with 2 gang murders? That's an easy question. That's the most clear example of if someone murders a rival gang member twice, I think it's pretty clear that they knowingly and willfully agreed.
How do you murder someone twice?
Same with other crimes and acts.
The same shit got big and Tupac killed little fuck, nigga. Push that in no bitch ass. Hey, gang, you bring push that out. You gonna see me? I'm at your fucking neck.
So again, what do they say? This is Kendrick and Wooney Lee. You have all the Make America Slime again. You have Kendrick with YSL pennant, and you have Shannon Stillwell, where someone in the background says YSL for life. That's just one example. You've obviously seen and heard from multiple. But what do they say? What do they do? Are they publicly or actively or oftenly saying, yes, I'm a part of this YSL? There's an us and a them? Yes, I think it's pretty clear that they have. Now, some of this I've talked about, actions or evidence. So let me give you a concrete example we saw just a couple weeks ago with DeVito. So, YFN Lucci flyer. This is from Marquavius Huey's phone, where him and Jeffrey Williams, they send a text message to flyer of Lucci. In 6 text messages, this principle of agreement, you're going to see agreement in action. This text is about to come up, where all that's said, right? Flyer, Jeffrey Williams says, where's that at? Claremont, slatty handle, stay very low, slat for sure, been out the way. They didn't say murder, they didn't say stab, they didn't say shoot, but in 6 text messages, it's readily clear that they're talking about enacting violence on YFN Lucci. That's agreement in one, barely a screen of a text message.
No, it's not.
That shows you, and think about
It
this
says to
example.
stay low.
What do they say with one another?
Get
What do
up.
they do with one another? That's how you can know agreement. It's just like you all have family and friends, you may text one word, and they know what you're saying. I'm heading home. You don't say the address, right? Agreement can be inferred with very little words, especially with people who know each other very well. And
Or
YSL
unless
has
you're a
some legal
Jedi,
authority.
maybe
Slide
you could
handle, he knows he will handle it.
figure it out.
Other examples. What it does not require. I've covered most of this. It doesn't require, like I said, physical meetings, even though we have that in this case. Knowledge of the details of the conspiracy. I argue we have that in this case, considering that Kenneth Copeland, Quindarius Zachary, Walter Murphy, all of these individuals have given statements with evidence that's been corroborated that real crimes happen in real places and they knew about it. So a lot of these, you don't have to have them, but you actually do in this case. The last one, the identity of all the co-conspirators. You wouldn't have to know if you had 200 members of YSL. I don't know the exact number, but you wouldn't have to know every single one. Obviously, I argue to you that
We don't know how
because
many.
you see the same individuals speaking, talking, and acting in concert together throughout the case.
What?
But none of these things are
They
necessary.
don't know how many.
Agreement.
They don't even know if they have one.
And there's a slight lag on this Zoom, this clicker. So I'm gonna move through this. So at its core, the crime is the agreement. The overt acts let you know that it's real. So this is important. They're charged with conspiracy to violate RICO. So the agreement to violate RICO, that's the crime they're charged with. These overt acts that you heard from, we're about to walk through, those let you know that this isn't just fanciful, this isn't just in their minds, it's a real conspiracy. And in this case, and we're gonna explain what RICO A and B is, they've actually committed the crime. So it's like you're asking you, did this group of individuals agree to conspire to commit all of these crimes, racketeering activity? The best evidence of that they did is they actually went and shot multiple people, murdered people, robbed for the street gang. That lets you know that there's not much to say when you actually do the crimes that you're alleged to have just conspired to commit. It'd be like if you're asked about the bank robbery conspiracy and all they do is just talk about the bank robbery, get the items, they go and buy a gun, but they never do a robbery. Fast forward, they've done 20 robberies, 50 robberies over a decade, and you're asked, did that group of bank robbers intend to be part of the bank robbing crew? You'd obviously say yes. It's common sense because of what they actually did. That concept is important. Like I said, the overt act lets us know the conspiracy is alive and well. And I'll argue to you, going back to credibility, the conspiracy is alive and well in this courtroom with deceiving in this witness stand. So this is just a visual explanation that you have Shannon Stillwell, Diamante Kendricks, and some, I didn't list all the photos of people you've seen, but this, the criminal enterprise, visually depicted. So let's walk through what an overt act is. So joint objectives equal joint responsibility. This is like a partnership in crime. Now, to find that someone's act is all the co-conspirators are on the hook for it, so to speak. Any act done by any co-conspirator to further the criminal objectives is what counts. So if they're going to shoot a rival and you find that, yeah, they did shoot that rival and they did it to help YSL the enterprise, if that act and you find that whoever you find is part of that conspiracy, it's like they're all one and one for all. So each co-conspirator is responsible for the acts of others that are naturally and necessarily done to further the enterprise. Now, I've talked about different ways to violate. A, in a nutshell, is to acquire money and property. I'm not going to bury the lead. That's the first way to violate RICO. Conspire to acquire or keep money or other personal property. B, they both have conspire, and they actually have 7 elements each, and I believe 5 of the 7 are the same. So I'm going to explain a lot of these elements we've covered. 2 or more conspirators is one. So conspire to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. If you find the defendant, and on your verdict form it will say, the defendant violated subsection A or subsection B, or conspired to violate. So I'm going to walk through what is A, what is B. They don't have to actually have committed A and B, although in this case I believe that they have, as I'm going to show you. You just have to say, did they ever conspire? And remember these principles I talked about. The unspoken words, what people do and say is the agreement, or you're not going to have that magic conference room meeting, so to speak. It's all captured when the conspiracy gets hatched. So let's walk through this. We're going to start with A. Keep it easy, keep it basic. And you're going to notice that when I talk about A, some of the acts can actually meet multiple ways. So you're going to see that certain evidence can actually impact multiple ways to violate RICO. So let's talk about subsection A of the RICO Act. Knowingly and willfully conspired with 2 or more co-conspirators to acquire or keep money or other personal property, a pattern of racketeering activity. I'm going to explain pattern of racketeering activity. It's 2 or more crimes that are explained and listed, and you'll be instructed by the court on what they are, that within 4 years. And any of the co-conspirators committed an overt act with at least 1 in furtherance of a criminal objective, and at least 1 has to be after May 10th, 2017. So that's A. I'm going to walk through some examples of A, and we're going to take this bit by bit. Armed robbery, Arshillian Bennett. Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Wood, May 13th, 2013. You heard from the officer where she walked with her child from 988 Confederate Court to that zone precinct to report crime. That takes a lot of effort and time. So I'm going to use this top one while that bottom thing comes back. But obviously she came in here and did not want to acknowledge about the robbery, but I argue there's about to be a real bullet in her window that was taken by a crime scene tech, which just responds to a scene. That is 988 Confederate Court, which comes up that address and area multiple times. And she said that she told the officer at the time, her Kel-Tec, the money, her purse was stolen. Acquire and keep money. Now, Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams, and she said someone that she didn't know, Jeffrey Williams' brother. That's multiple people doing it. That's 1 crime, 1 act. But when they work together, it's much easier to get property and items. And no one expects Ms. Bennett to come in here and testify. Certainly not back then, and certainly not now. But that is an example of acquiring and obtaining money. It's robbery. Derek Dotson, also in 2013. This is 5 through 7. Adrian Bean, the coin laundry, where Miss Marissa Cisneros' car flew over the ledge. I mean, Adrian Bean sat here for what felt like an eternity and didn't remember entire years, but he flew over while driving a car over a 6-foot embankment. Why did he not remember any of that? Just think about that. I think the only thing he said is that memorable moment where he's like, keep it a buck, and he took his mask off. But he clearly would remember flying over a wall. Why are we not coming here and talking about it? Now this, again, Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams, that's the location where Leonard Pass's car, which is that gray Dodge, right there, is parked, Somerdale Apartments. Obviously, this is in the Cleveland Avenue area, because often these crimes are committed in same locations, which will become important later. These are the firearms that they recovered from the car. And then this is Mr. Derek Dotson, and you heard from Leonard Pass, who was with him. That's the car that was crashed underneath. And then this is a picture of Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams, the time he's throwing up rock crew. If you remember, the background behind this is this slime, kind of green and black font. So again, it's 2 YSL members acquiring, obtaining, trying to rob Derek Dotson. And again, they're working in concert, working together. Mr. Raven Hill, Act 6.
Some of the guns are actually good choices. Some of them are junk.
If you remember, she only could recognize or ever identified Christian Eppinger, but there was 2 cars and multiple males with him.
One thing I don't get with this
reasonable to suspect he's working with other people
is it would have been a hell of a lot easier for them to have broken this case up into blocks. And even if you did 2 guys at once, because they were in a conspiracy or whatever, they could have broken a lot of this up in blocks and probably gotten better convictions out of all of them. Or let me rephrase that, they could have actually gotten convictions on the majority of them. But they tried to do what Rudy Giuliani did to the Gambinos. They're just not the federal government. They just don't have the ability. And they damn well don't know what they're doing. So, just my opinion. What do I know? I'm just a talking head.
Because again, it's hard to rob someone by yourself. So working in concert. That's Miss Hill. That's her apartment complex in present day. That's Christian Eppinger.
No,
public
nice.
A firearm on social media. That's her wrecked car. Found later. And where does the car go? Where Miss Hill lives, to Cleveland Avenue. Where do the guns and the Infiniti 250 from Donald Thomas go? They go to Oak Drive, where OG Bentley's house is. Common after crimes, they go to the same location. That's important because these same victims, same accomplices, same pattern is important for RICO. So keep that in mind as we walk through this. And he does all of this with, and it's hard to see from here, YSL on his face, no mask. She said, I can't remember if Miss Hill said I wore glasses or didn't wear glasses, but her eyes were working just fine. And he had nothing covering his face. think about it. If you walked into Winn-Dixie with a nameplate that said, hey, I'm Christian Atkins, I'm here to rob you, no one would do that. So why would you publicly have the gang on your face when you do a crime? Because a face tattoo could stand out. Because they want people to know. You want the notoriety. You want the fear. Who robbed you? YSL. She doesn't know his name. Think about that. You have multiple people. And Walter Murphy, for those, I don't know the date Walter Murphy got his face tattoo. I know Evanger had it for this, but Walter Murphy has a YSL on his forehead, right? So think about that public display of allegiance to
On his
the criminal gang
forehead.
and enterprise, and when you commit crime, because that's important.
Loser.
Now, stolen firearms. I'm not going to show you every
Slacker.
firearm we've introduced, but there's a lot of stolen guns. Think about, we don't know where
Ooh,
all these guns came from.
Sig
Sometimes you heard
Sauer.
from the person whose home was burglarized or car was broken into, and said, yes, this was a report from.
It's
this
not a
location.
bad
But
AR-15.
add these up, it's a decent number
Ain't
of stolen guns.
cheap.
These are all overt acts.
That is not cheap.
Jeffrey Williams, the Sig Sauer, September 9th, 2013.
That's a SIG. That's
When they were riding back
over
into
$1,000
the
bucks.
Trestle Tree Confederate, the same location Miss Bennett lived at, right? On October 1st, 2015, after Martinez Arnold got jumped at Magic City. 40 cal stolen. FN57, that is the stop that Officer Fikes did of Jeffrey Williams.
That's an expensive
Why are all
pistol.
these stolen weapons from 2013?
That is very
2017,
expensive.
2018,
It's well
2020,
over $1,000 bucks.
2015 and 2022, you
You
heard
can get
from Secretary
some
Packer that it was
other
some
ones
train that
much cheaper.
from the ATF, that a cargo ship. That's acquiring or maintaining property, stolen guns. Ask yourself where all these stolen guns come. And you've seen, like when Quindarius Zachary is arrested with the gun on May 7th, 2015, that came back with Nibin when Kilgore testified to the shooting of Miss Frida Reed's house. When it matched that, the guns exchange hands. The guns move around, and stolen guns are harder to trace. That's acquiring and maintaining property. And evidence of it. I just included a couple photos because we have a lot to cover, but that is stolen property, all tethered to A. In 2022, right, this is the gun that was reported stolen that right before they went to the house on Meadowlark Drive, it was thrown out and recovered, and it came back stolen. Again, stolen weapons from as far back as 2013 to stolen weapons as recently as 2022. There's common patterns that indicate that they get stolen firearms quite easily. Subsection B. This is where all the violent acts come up. So the first objective, and your indictment's not going to have numbers, is going to be conspiracy to violate subsection B with the state's objective of murder, aggravated assault, and threats of violence. So we're going to walk through some of these so I can explain to you why they further the criminal objectives of YSL. So simple definition, while associated with an enterprise, YSL, they knowingly and willfully conspire with one or more co-conspirators to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, and any of the co-conspirators committed an overt act after May 10th, 2017. If you notice, other than what's in green, everything's the same as A. So these same factors and principles will come up for both. So I got to explain to you what is participating in the enterprise and what are these criminal objectives. So we're going to start with the murder, aggravated assault, and threats of violence and go from there. So again, page 12 of the indictment, it outlines the conspiracy. I'm not going to read all this for you now, but it states the Young Slime Life enterprise and what the criminal objectives are right after. That's where you can find it on page 12 of the indictment you're going to have. These are these objectives. I've removed them from the indictment, but we're going to start with the first one. Murder, assault, threats of violence. And then we're going to talk about robbery, theft, unlawful sale, and distribution of drugs. So let's walk through this together. I just want to show you a brief visual of how you're going to have the indictment with you and look through it. So again, we're going to go objective by objective because it helps to organize the evidence. And objective one, murder, assault, and threats of violence. So you've heard about pattern of racketeering activity. What is racketeering activity? The good news for y'all is the indictment. Anytime you see, it will state, which is an act of racketeering activity, and then it'll cite a statute. This is what explains what racketeering activity is. This is the murder of Donovan Thomas. And you'll see when you are deciding, which is overt acts 16 through 20 is the murder of Donovan Thomas. When y'all are back there and saying, I want to figure out something's a pattern of racketeering or figure out if an overt act is a racketeering activity. That will tell you. That's your snapshot. So just look. This is overt act 17, which is the murder. 16 is when Jeffrey Williams rents the vehicle. But when you see what's highlighted, you'll know it's racketeering activity. So I just want to show that for you. And then we're going to walk through this now. We're going to talk about Donovan Thomas first, overt act 16 through 20.
Atlanta on the line for the 630.
Yeah, police over here on the north side of McDaniel.
North side of McDaniel. Why did you
Yeah, at Harold living in the barber shop. Somebody got shot.
Mr. Parker, you testified. He was on a barbershop there for 20 years. Barbershop right here. And Kendrick, Stillwell, this is Demise McMullen. Now we'll talk about this in a minute. This is actually the photograph of when they shot Dexter Montgomery. Same case with D'Angelo White when they left that Jonesboro gas station in Lakewood and got to the four-way stop. That's the photograph of that. So you have Nard, but that's Demise McMullen, Shannon Stillwell, Kendrick. This is obviously the shooting. Overt act is did Jeffrey Williams rent the Infinity 250 and act in furtherance of the conspiracy. When you think about these overt acts, think how the criminal objectives. Ms. Hilton's going to talk to you and walk through bit by bit. The murder
Remember, what they're trying to prove is that, like, for instance, Jeffrey Williams is supposed to be John Gotti. Okay? So he's the godfather. So the whole purpose of the RICO acts was to be able to get to that guy because they could never do that before until the RICO. I've never cared for RICO. I think it's way too problematic, constitutionally speaking, but it can be done right. This ain't it. If you've watched any of this, it's a damn dumpster fire. It just is. But that's the whole purpose of it.
Of Donovan Thomas. But I argue to you, as she will too, that has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and that renting of the Infinity is an overt act that was used to facilitate the murder, and you've seen a pattern of rental cars being used. And ask yourself why. They're harder to trace. People don't recognize you in that car. Now, how is Donovan Thomas's murder evidence of RICO?
Harder to trace, except for when you find out.
That's Donovan Thomas. This is about to be.
That somebody rented
This
it.
shit is in blood. This shit in blood. And we also wrote it on niggas.
We wrote it on a tombstone. And that's Diamond Thomas's gravestone. And when Miss Edmonds, who testified to you about recognizing that, she didn't wipe graffiti, she didn't wipe paint off that tombstone. She wiped a confession. And that confession says slap. Because that's who it's for, that's who it's from, that's who publicly has acknowledged that murder since it happened. YSL, the criminal enterprise. And that same slap in green handwriting, defendant Stillwell is posting in, 7 years later in a slime t-shirt, right, Peanut Stone Grave. That's the translation version, he put it in Spanish. Woomy Lee's comment, his comment, they're all talking about, and kind of joking cheapishly, about the murder of Diamond Thomas. It's we, it's us, it's criminal enterprise. Now, we talked about Kendrick's tattoo, which is about to come up, on his left forearm. I don't know when he got this tattoo, when the Zoom works with me and it comes up. I don't know if he had that tattoo of slat on his arm while he's driving the Infiniti 250 past 330 McDaniel Street and Nard and Shannon shot and killed Diamond Thomas, but that same green slat ends up on the gravestone. It's not a coincidence. And they're telling you that they did it, and they just don't care, because as you said when we started, slimes are above the law, but they didn't think about you. Now, you hear it as clear as I hear it. I swear to God, nobody accused Dolly of murdering Diamond Thomas. Who's the we? And then you hear in the background, we smoke nut. And if you remember that call right before that, Woody saying, tell your brother I love him. And then you can hear Jeffrey Williams say, tell him I love him. Right there next to him. We killed Nut. We put it on his tombstone. Slap, slap, and then just making the cheapest joke this years later. They're telling you we did it. They just don't care. And that's Shannon Stillwell in that same video. And there's a live snake and a
This
YSL.
guy's doing much better. I don't know why they didn't use him. They should have kept him off the bench.
Now, we're going to turn to Jamari Holmes next. I'm going to explain to you why that murder that Rodelius Ryan and Damon Blaylock did is in furtherance of the YSL Criminal Street Gang, which is Overt Act 79 through 81, February 23rd, 2019. That's the vehicle that 15-year-old Jamari Holmes was in. This is Rodelius Ryan. This is Blaylock throwing up YSL. He's also an Overt Act, that public display of allegiance. It's going to come up in just a second. That's Jamari Holmes. You're going to see the message where, where Mariah leaves and she says, or not Mariah, but Brazy, as they called her, text and DMs Ryan and Blaylock and says, they know about Ryan but don't know about you, and allude to Mariah snitching on them. That snitching comes up repeatedly. This is the projectile that was in Jamari Holmes' head that was fired from weapons that Rodelius Ryan and Damon Blaylock shot. While they were hanging out with females in Cleveland Avenue, it came to 50 Mount Zion, and then I want to ask you, this is that message. All again, talking about snitching, trying to not get caught. Now, how do you know why Ryan did it? What does Ryan think about this murder? What is he remorseful? Is he sad? Well, here's him that same day at 5 o'clock. So that's the 911 call at 4 in the morning, not 4 in the afternoon, February 23rd, 2019. Bet YSL makes the news FaceTime. You've heard repeatedly about the FaceTime. I argue to you when he says Bet YSL makes the news, Fox 5. So.
Yeah, I gotta mute it. Stupid music.
YSL makes the news. Now, what does he do 5 hours after this?
That was quick.
Let's find out.
Block like no again. No again. Bitch, I push niggas come up here and block. Kill a rag, don't shoot at your fitted. That's no cap.
He's going to shoot at your fitted, and that's the fitted cap that Jamari Holmes wore on his head when he was murdered. That is bragging about the murder. YSL makes the news, and then he's on the quote-unquote block, right? And he's throwing up YSL. Is it a coincidence that this guy he's with says, Little Rod will shoot at your, don't come on this block. And you have Bernard Mitchell, all them who weren't from that neighborhood, come over to 50 Mount Zion. He will shoot at your fitted cap. And there's a literal fitted cap from Jamari Holmes' head with a bullet hole in it. That's his skull with a bullet hole in it. This ain't murder gang, isn't some facade. This isn't for clout. This is real life. And this is the bragging and the boasting above the law and proving that they're doing it for the street gang. They're telling you, nothing I've said so far with these two murders is anything but their own word. March 14th, 2022, Chamel Drinks. I think it's amply clear that this murder is gang-related. It's to further YSL. You've heard about the Nibin matches, the double homicide of Christian McMillan and Darius Ford. You heard op hunting, all of the way that Garlington and Shannon talked about getting revenge. And what happens? They see an op at a gas station and 4 YSL members in a rented vehicle murder. And Shannon Stillwell's involved in both. And it's eerily similar to Diamond Thomas' murder. This is the corridor right there, and that is Chamel Drink's vehicle with bullet holes on the same side of his car that Shannon Stillwell's Audi drove up in. It's not rocket science that he did it. The evidence has shown you he did. It's 100% gang-related. They're both part of the same rival group. There's no evidence about any kind of disagreement or anything with Chamel Drinks. They did it for YSL. They did it to get revenge. And this is just a visual representation where Shannon Stillwell is publicly stating, check the score. Because again, shooting and murder is like a scoreboard, but this ain't a sports game. This is the Superior Court of Fulton County, and you can't go shoot people for sport or murder your rivals to up the score. That ain't how it works. That's the Mekion Garlington. There's the Ford Fusion with Miles Farley and with Parmadius Nichols. Now, aggravated assault. We've heard a lot about aggravated assaults. And in a case like this, you can kind of get numb to the shell casings collected, the damage, but these are acts of racketeering, real guns shooting real bullets towards property or people. What do YSL members say about shooting?
Y'all know me too. You know this. Don't come no club. Don't come outside. Don't do shit. Stay your ass in your house. In my basement. Make your pizza shit. Bring your ass out of the house.
Hey, look, don't come outside. That's their word. Shoot the ops, make them catch on. That's Rodelius Ryan's Instagram. They came in when Mr. Howes was sitting right here. And then this is Rodelius Ryan with a drum, a YSL chain, publicly showing it. These public threats of violence, when you're murdering people and throwing up YSL and bragging about it, that has a real effect of people who want to come in and testify or people that ever want to come to police, period. These aren't just a facade. This isn't just a movie. This is real life. And they're showing you and telling you what they're about. So I say take them at their word for it. April 12th, 2015, Dexter Montgomery. This is important because when you boil it down from what D'Angelo White told 911 and the police that you heard, they were just driving. And it seemed like OG Bentley thought that they were following them. They get to the gas station. There's no real reason for this to escalate to where it did. And when they leave the gas station, from Walter Murphy's evidence, Nard and Walter Murphy come. It's one YSL member, OG Bentley. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe someone was out to get him. But it wasn't D'Angelo White. It was not Dexter Montgomery. And this is their car when it stopped after the shooting at that stoplight. Cornelius Davis and Christian James. And that's the bullet that comes in through that car. And that's Dexter Montgomery with half his head shot off because they followed a YSL member to a gas station. That's it. One call, Walter Murphy and Demascus Ball, they didn't say, where do I sign the criminal enterprise contract? This agreement I talked about, slap, handle that. They just go. They grab the sticks and win.
My name's D'Angelo. And D'Angelo, tell me exactly what happened.
We was at the gas station. And, my partner was trying to talk to a girl, but I guess they thought we were following them. And then they pulled up on and just started. And we pulled out. And then we pulled up from the gas station. Then we got away. And then we ended up driving a backstreet way. And then we ended up seeing them again. They ended up shooting. And somebody ended up getting hit.
Okay. Are you with?
Like I said, they're just driving. I mean, this is Walter Murphy with a stick. This is Demise McMullen, who they say hard Nard, the same person that Quindarius Zachary and Copeland said was shooting at Donovan Thomas. This is 3 months later. It's a lot more likely that he's a shooter when you see him on camera with a long gun at a gas station for no reason because OG Bentley called him. Their same common associates with no questions come. That's an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Lil Wayne tour bus, April 26, 2015. You heard a lot of evidence about Lil Wayne. What you didn't hear was any remote personal reason that Jimmy Winfrey would have any, even knew or had any kind of squabble with Dwayne Carter or Lil Wayne. So why did he shoot the bus? You heard about the public back and forth, and look at the actions before, during, and after of that shooting. Now, this is only a couple weeks after Dexter Montgomery. And it's 2 days before the shooting spree of Adele Drive and Drew Drive that Garlington, Zachary, and Sledge did. So all these shootings, when Gaither and Dennis come in and talk about shooting after shooting, they're not just making this stuff up. It's real. So this is Mr. Alvin Lewis's tour bus shot up. This is Jenny Winfrey. You heard from Detective Dennis about visually seeing them, and Zachary kind of got spooked because he knew his social security number, which would probably spook out Zachary of like, how does this gang detective know me like that? And then you have this post, which is over at 121, I'm free, death before dishonor. Quite similar to the tattoo that Shannon Stillwell has, YSL. And what does he say about it? And by he, I mean Jenny Winfrey.
And then another thing, she let Amina know they got paperwork up in black and white showing, that I work for the company. That's not gonna look like street business.
Get Amina to get the paperwork to put it in black and white because if not, it's gonna look like street business. Because it is street business. They just don't want you to know. That's that deception piece. They don't want jurors to know. They don't want the police to know. So get it in paperwork so we can make it look legit. There's nothing legit about shooting a tour bus driver's car on the highway. There's none. This is the phone records. They move as a pack. They move as one. This is before where Zachary, Winfrey, Sledge, McMullen, Greer, and Dolly are all in the general area of the vault. This is when it's about to come up is the compound, which is a little bit later. Zachary, Winfrey, McMullen, Greer, and Dolly, 142 to 304. They all have kind of similar times when they leave, similar times when they depart. And then the last slide is going to be Dolly and Jimmy Winfrey's phone records for when the shooting happened. And you can see the path they travel. Winfrey's in black and Dolly's in orange. And you know the white Camaro that you hid and made the jail call and not get it found. And then he comes out and then it's YSL, death before dishonor. Jimmy Winfrey quite likely did not act alone. How do you drive a white Camaro going 80 down the highway and shoot that many times in a bus? Just think about it. It's common sense. They act as one, as you've seen. This is 2 days later. 3 other completely different YSL members, but all part of the same criminal street gang. Garlington, Zachary, and Sledge. Garlington gets jumped at Club Crucial. What do? They go on a shooting spree. First, they go shoot up 1428. Then they go shoot up 1903 Drew Drive. Back to back to back. This is Miss Bell. And when you talk about credibility of witnesses, you don't believe Miss Bell's testimony because you like her. Everybody wants to drink a glass of vodka with Miss Bell. She's a sweet lady. You believe it because what motive does she have to come in here and sit and say that her house was shot up other than that it did? What motive does she have? What bias does she have? She's a good example. She's just in her bed trying to drink a nightcap and just hang out. And what happens? They shoot at her because they think that her nephew or someone in YFN is there. That's not how it works in Fulton County. You don't just go shoot people's houses up because your op's there. But again, they're above the law. This is the timeline, 220 to 406 to 551. This is Zachary with what looks like an AK-47 and Demetrion Garlington and their Sledge wiping his nose. Just like, if you remember, he wiped his nose when he walked off that witness stand at y'all. So these are the things that they're telling you, and you're going to see photographs from these. First, it's going to be the Club Crucial shooting. When they post about guns, when they talk about guns, and then they tell you that they committed the crimes, it's not rocket science. You take them at their word, what the evidence has shown. These kind of retaliations, again, Demikion's jumped, we got to protect them. It's a us, it's a we, it's an enterprise, right? And they act together because you have strength in numbers, protection and shootings. But this was a fist fight. It was a shooting in the parking lot, and then they go to other homes, travel intentionally down there and shoot. Again, they're moving together in concert, as you saw from the Donovan Thomas phone records, the Chanel Drinks phone records, the Lil Wayne phone records. We didn't put in phone records of this, but I think it's quite clear who did it and why they did it from the testimony of Zachary and Sledge and what we impeached them on. 34 shell casings. Drew Drive, roughly 2 hours later, right? This is when Miss Battle's apartment was, and it's just an apartment right by the street, all these shell casings in the middle of the street, refrigerators and ovens shot. All because someone jumped Demikion, and so they go, no questions asked. Again, they don't have to sign on the dotted line. They have agreement, they have knowledge, they act in concert, and the criminal objective is to help the street gang, which is go get revenge. That's the RICO in action. So if you're asked, well, did Kendrick and Stillwell agree to be a part of a group that would commit racketeering activity? They agree to participate knowingly and willingly. And you have all these shootings, and you say,
Did they think that was it reasonably foreseeable, understanding when they joined that multiple shootings would go on with YSL? You bet there is. You've seen it, right? They don't back up. They don't quit. They keep hanging out, shooting, and associating, and publicly bragging about YSL over and over. This is roughly a month minus 7 days from when this shooting spree happened that these two, Garlington and Zach, would do. They can mess with us if they want. We're going to bring them homicide. Take their word for it. Because aggravated assault could be a murder. It just missed. So they're shooting. They're telling you I am. And then they want to act like, oh, I'm just kidding. It's obviously not a joke. It's not a facade. It's very real. Conspiracy to commit murder, which is Diamante Kendrick and Martinez Arnold, same neighborhood, Summerhill area, Confederate area. They have a stolen handgun and a long gun, and they're riding yet again after a fight. And this time it's not a nightclub, it's a strip club, Magic City. And you heard that brief snippet of a jail call where Kendrick's talking about it and talking about how Duke just called him, right? So again, little questions, little actions, just driving and get stopped in the same area of town where Kelvin Watts and Miss Bennett and YFN Lucci and YFN, all of that area of town. It's not a coincidence. It's the same victim, same area. This red circle is going to be the stolen firearm. That's the long gun. This is Overt Act 111. 5 years later, you have the same two individuals in a slime t-shirt with Martinez Arnold. Again, they're still hanging, associating. And then on the May 9th, 2022 stop, Martinez Arnold and Kendricks are at that house that has all of those firearms and marijuana out in the open. Nothing's changed except time. Public displays of allegiance. This is the photograph that I believe Investigator Griffin, who was the lead detective on T.R. Jones' murder, introduced. Does that apartment complex look quite familiar to the steps of Miss Bennett's? Because it's 98 Confederate Court, that Confederate Court area. ABG territory, and that's Kelvin Watts, right? And this is where they were headed. And obviously in 2022, they're still trying to shoot and kill, shell Kelvin Watts. You see how over time it's the same acts. That's conspiracy. It's just right before you. Now, objective 4. Remember how I said at the beginning, sometimes those stolen firearms.
You see that where the phone had an ID stuck to it? That's brilliance and the action right there.
You could find them as they conspired to violate B, to participate in the enterprise, or A, they conspired knowing that they could acquire and get property a lot easier. Either one. The evidence can sometimes fit multiple. And you have the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. Now, I'm not going to walk through all of the drugs we introduced or firearms or items. I'm just giving you a snapshot. That criminal objective has multiple. I think I would focus on the areas of where they are if there's other people with them. And I think this might skip through faster than I anticipated. This is obviously the May 9th, 2022, which is Jeffrey Williams.
Man, it's a sack of weed.
So back one. And while that's coming up, I may get some help to put up one of these easels that we'll talk about. This just has agreement, enterprise, and pattern. This agreement to be a part of the enterprise, a pattern, and they all flow together, right? So evidence that they agreed, they go and shoot rivals together. We go and shoot the same rivals with the same people together. Evidence for agreement, evidence for pattern. Does the YSL enterprise exist? Is it a loosely formed group of individuals for a same common criminal purpose? All of these three kind of feed together. So this triangle is just a visual way to help think through this. Okay, well, it's catching up with me. And I apologize for this, but what's going to come up next, this is the Green Store, right? This is a picture of Kenneth Copeland and Shannon Stillwell. You have August 23, 2013, where one of the first witnesses, Sergeant Heeb, H-E-E-B, he was an officer of Viverito. Sound familiar? 50 individual packages of clear marijuana. And this area of town is not far from where the Windsor Street gas station is in 2022, where Chanel Drinks was last seen alive before that stoplight. This is Trontavious Stevens' possession of marijuana after a traffic stop where he was with Stillwell. You've seen kind of over the years, multiple, sometimes at around 151 Cleveland, drugs. You've heard about the May 9th, 2022, all of the drugs that were found in the house. This is just a snapshot. These are some overt acts that you could use for this criminal objective of unlawful distribution of drugs. So I just include this as a tip. I'm not going to walk through every one. Act 48, 2015. Act 49, 2015. Act 65, 2020.
Pharmacies.
It spans 7 years. BB, Nicholas Stevens, right? You've heard and seen pictures of them, identifiers of YSL over time in similar areas dealing drugs. That's another benefit or perk or objective of being in this kind of group, because no one's going to want to mess with you when you're going around shooting people and saying, I'm going to shoot. It helps you to unlawfully distribute drugs a lot easier in certain areas. Now, objective 5 is obstructing law enforcement, right? So you've heard about this in multiple ways. This is intimidation of witnesses, because that helps the enterprise, because then you can't get caught. Maybe you can fool or deceive a juror, a detective, a pattern, repeatedly, publicly saying you'll lie to all your family and friends and then come here and tell the truth, basically saying, hint, hint, why can't you lie in court? You need to get killed, and then agreement where all of them benefit and know and participate in this. So what evidence do we have
He's
of
not wrong.
attacks on law enforcement? Well, one of the first acts you saw was Trontavious Stevens, where you heard from the vehicle that was stolen and Officer Pettis, and there was that firearm in that yellow bucket where he tried to go and arrest Stevens, who had this tattoo on his body. And then he brandished a handgun, pointed it at the firearm. Intimidation. Now, the officer was undercover, right? He's trying to stop him and apprehend him, and he's just basically, I'm above the law, right? The same message that Shannon Stillwell was saying in present day. They don't think they can be held accountable. Police can't stop me. Now, we've talked about armed robbery of Derek Dotson, but this also proves this objective, and I'll show you why. That's former and present. That's the,
Yeah, he said it. For no reason, what?
for no reason.
He shooting for no reason.
He's shooting at 12, the police for no reason.
Why for no reason, Carter?
That's Adrian Beingward, right? And
And
then
he got it on him. And he got the screen up on him.
bloody DK, and I got the strap on me, and he throws up rock crew at the time. And he's just shooting at 12 for no reason. Another attack on law enforcement. And again, you don't want to get caught. You just try to rob Derek Dotson, so you don't want to get apprehended by the police. Officer Rogers. You're going to hear what people say before and after some of this and their viewpoint on law enforcement.
Down, I'm better take her down. Nigga, back to that shot shit. YSL shit. Kill it 12 shit. Fuck a jail shit. Drink it at the bitch.
This is that killing 12 shit, and that's Christian Effinger in the Cleveland Avenue area shooting Officer Rogers. That's not just words, that's a mentality of, again, lines are above the law, and it's a public message of that. I can't think of a more clear, raw example of that than this. Don't just believe what they say, believe what they do. And he's just trying to arrest him for a warrant. And what does Rodelius Ryan say after this happens? If you look at his TV screen, you're going to see Officer Rogers' photo pop up, and this is the message.
Now that is a video taken in prison with a cell phone smuggled in somebody's Louis Vuitton prison suitcase.
There's Officer Rogers.
Yeah, man. Somebody get rich, man. Put D8. Yeah, I'm about to take that one. We come to get you. You know what it is. Yes, sir. Free game.
That's in the hood.
Yeah, YSL shit.
YSL shit. Yeah. Just like the song said, YSL shit going shit. This is Ryan bragging and boasting about his fellow gang member.
There, that uniform. You can see the blue stripes on the pants. That's Georgia DOC. Should be, unless the jail there wears the same uniform. Looks like they're in actual state prison.
And then he says flat, right? This shows you how they view.
Yeah, man. Somebody get rich, man. By the way, the gang way. Get rich with a big head, man. They gave my nigga up Monday, man. You hear me?
Overact 180.
There's a lot to your kids.
You know, so Ryan's words there are kind of telling, right? Because he views what Effinger did on the one hand by himself as a collective, we, us, he's with me, and he's saying YSL and SLAT because it boosts your street cred. Quite frankly, it boosts your street cred to shoot at the police. And that furthers your gang because you get more of a reputation. And that's what you heard from the gang detectives and seeing why Ryan would have this positive reaction and collective us to Effinger doing that. It wasn't just Effinger alone. It's a we, it's a us. And any overt act done to further the conspiracy is held against everyone, to include these defendants. Because when you knowingly and willfully join a criminal enterprise, you got to buy the good, bad, and the ugly. Now, we talked about intimidating witnesses. I started with that video of Jeffrey Williams. What's Antonio Sledge's position?
You lie to your kids, you lie to your mama, but you get in the courtroom and in the investigation room and tell them punk ass people the God honest motherfucking truth. Puss ass.
And that's Antonio Sledge as a witness, right? So you realize what people say outside of court. Think about that Antonio Sledge and that. And it, how people are in the witness stand, right, is quite different. But you don't want to get caught. You don't want people to come in here and tell them. It's as clear as that. Miss Bennett, Antonio Sumlin, Quindarius Zachary, Walter Murphy, Kenneth Copeland, about to be Adrian Bean up here, Rooney Lee. You saw their reactions, the awkward pauses, the kind of contemplation of, man, what am I going to say here? Or some bad piece of wiretap or jail call that gets played that doesn't sound good. Trontavia Stevens and Adrian Bean. This is alluding to, you heard from Mariah Smith about the threats for her testifying in the murder of Jamari Holmes trial in coming to court. And this is a brain and a rat emoji. She got threats for talking to law enforcement. Again, you don't want people to come forward because it helps Rodelius Ryan not get caught. It helps the criminal enterprise stay abreast. That's an overt action for this conspiracy. What's a pattern of racketeering? So all of these crimes, these aggravated assaults, these murders, it's not, they actually did a pattern, but the conspiracy is, did they knowingly and willfully conspire to join YSL knowing that that could be a possibility? I think it's ludicrous to say otherwise, right? They knew exactly what they signed up for when they tattooed YSL on their body and shot people for YSL. And it can be from anyone within 4 years of each other. They're not in it for the long haul. You don't tattoo your face if you're just in something for a couple weeks. It's a permanent thing. And you've seen evidence in present day and evidence in the past that's shown that allegiance. And that's where this agreement, pattern, and enterprise all play together. You have agreement for the enterprise. There's a pattern of racketeering activity, shootings, murders, robberies that feed and promote the enterprise. That's RICO conspiracy. And it can be by any co-conspirator, but you certainly have overt acts from both of them. What is interrelated? This is key, right? What makes a pattern of racketeering interrelated? Same victims, same accomplices, same or similar intents, results, or methods of commission. With what we talked about so far, you've seen a repeated pattern. The same opposition group moving together, the same individuals committing it over and over. All of these interrelated. They're not just interrelated. It's like a yarn of, it's like a ball of yarn that's just so intertwined.
Man, dude, get a haircut.
It's like they're all.
Damn.
And I'm going to show you some examples of that will cut through time and cut through RICO conspirators, and you'll see patterns and connections that can be hard to miss with all this evidence. So let's focus on some distinguishing characteristics. So what's the best evidence that someone violated conspiracy to violate RICO? Is they actually did it. That's you want to figure out if someone wants to conspire to rob a bank and they go rob 20 banks. Well, they probably agreed to do that bank rob. It's as simple as that. So
that don't mean it's a RICO case. It just means conspiracy or complicity.
Same victims, same accomplices. So I'm going to show you some examples that are going to mirror together exhibits from different parts of the trial. Actions speak louder than words. They just do. It's like what your grandparents say or dad or mom, don't do what I say, do what I do. So believe them. Let's see what they do and how they do it and why it's interrelated. So we're going to see some patterns. They move as fast, right?
Rolex Oyster Perpetual.
or the spot on Oak Drive.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to
It's after the
afford
murder of Don
that.
Thomas. This is both what Copeland and Zachary say that they all went to get rid of the gun and to get rid of the car because they don't want murder weapons to get caught with it, obviously. So the same individual who called Walter Murphy and Demise McMullen 3 months later when they pulled up with a stick, you don't think that Demise McMullen
Hateful.
killed Don
That's where
Thomas,
Chick-fil-A.
Well, Kendrick Driving, and Justin Cobb, and then would go to his friend OG Bentley? Of course he would. And where did they go? I mean, 755, 750. This is McMullen and Williams. That's OG Bentley's house. 5 minutes from each other. They go from up north where Sky House is to down there. Let's look at the next slide. Bradford, 747. OG Bentley's house. You need common place to take gun cars. It's not a coincidence. They all just woke up and decided to go, have a pizza party at OG Bentley's, within 30 minutes of the murder of Don Thomas in a car rented by Jeffrey Williams. That's not a coincidence. And that Copeland and Zachary just guessed randomly of where they traveled. They knew. Let's look at Treadwell, right? He's all over this Oak Drive address because that's where his house was. Now, fast forward. This is Shamel Drinks. Where did they go after the murder of Shamel Drinks? This is Farley, Garlington, and Jackson. The times are a little different, but the general direction of travel is to, look, here's the airport. There's the airport. There's 70. They go to the same location after a murder for a variety of reasons. Maybe to get their story straight. Maybe all have a common place to go to get away from when you just commit a murder. This is 2022. That was 2015. That's a pattern. I can't think of a more clear example of one. Now, common places to stash a story. You've heard about the web. You've seen more recently Waters Road, and you used to hear reference about the dugout, but the web and Waters Road come up frequently. What were some similarities between them? They're places where they can store their guns. They can frequently go where no one's going to catch them or bother them. This is Trontavia Stevens. This is Antonio Sumlin. He has the slime tattoo on his body, and someone has YSL here and multiple king slime on his forearm. This is the web. There's that YSL. There's a surveillance video right there. Look kind of similar to Waters Road. Completely different locations. This is from the Instagram where one slug, I'm going to the web. And then there was
I know we back at the web. What, slug spot? Yeah, we got that spot now. They ain't slug spot though.
We're back at the web. It's not slug spot. It's now my spot. They exchange guns. They exchange locations to help the gang. It's quite simply that, right? They need a spot to be able to hang out and lay low. Fast forward to present time. We're about to talk about and see Waters Road. And you saw the phone records both in March. The ankle monitor, it was 3,000 something times per minute that defendant Stillwell was at that 2830 Waters Road. It's not a coincidence, right? You just saw that surveillance at the web. Yes, you can have a surveillance system in your home with the evidence of guns. Let's go to the web, Waters Road, with all of the assault rifles and bullets that were there.
It's not an assault rifle, dummy.
Same address, Waters Road. It moves and
Immediate
talks
cartridge,
very similar. Different locations.
select
YSL
auto,
members,
and
to help the
semi-auto.
enterprise. They all agree.
Nothing on the market has select fire.
There's a clear pattern. You don't have to be a rocket
Moron.
scientist to figure out this pattern. Same or similar intents and accomplishments. So follow me with this. So Don Thomas, murdered January 10th, 2015, by YSL. YFN Lucci, whose mother's house is shot on the 22nd of January and the 26th of January, 2015. And then what do they say? What do they do? What are their methods of attacking or harming a rival? Well, that's the 22nd, 1007 Hill Street. And then the 26th, that is a window, a mirror. Is it a coincidence he shoots that? Not, I shoot as mommy no longer mentions me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But then when you see the text messages right between Huey and Thug, go handle that, Slatty, it kind of takes on a little different feel to it. All right, so keep going. What other actions do YSL members have with? If you remember, right, the gun.
If I mute this, it's because they're playing music, so I don't get a copyright strike.
Conspirators work together in concert. This is a tweet or an Instagram from Jeffrey Williams. I didn't like what you did for your mothers and kids. I would have been killed you. That's 2019. And then you have in 2020, coincidentally, Kendrick was slapping a steak on him, standing on the same Mr. Bennett's car, right? A clear sign of disrespect with a middle finger. And then fast forward,
And
not just funny
dismiss the
tweets or
car.
funny songs or funny cars, right? Let's keep going with this. Same victim, same YSL members throughout all of this. There's the flyer we talked about, right? There's the tweet. Go handle it. You saw examples. You saw another example of that when Liv Reader was on the stand. Now, not only do they shoot at his mother's house, murder his friends, tweet at him, disrespect his car, then they try to stab him and actually do stab him in the jail, but they try to kill him, is what I meant to say. And you saw the text messages about that. So let's walk through that, right? This is spanning from 2015 to 2022. Agreement, enterprise, pattern. This is when Jaden Myrick stabbing YFN Lucci in the jail. That's YFN Lucci. He's actually fake violence. Then, well, that same day,
on PT. On PT.
and this is Eppinger and Sumner.
Yeah, hey, find out what I get for that, bro. Huh? Now find out what I get for that, bro. Guess what? You don't know something. I know what you can get for. I just told you why I'm at. Okay, so what you need me to do? Find out what I get, man. I just told you what I'm going with. What's wrong with? Lucy, nigga.
Lucci. Dude, you can say the cuss word. You're reading the testimony. Grow a pair of nuts and say it.
See, there's something, right? Can't else find it out. Publicly, fully, did they know me what we really want myself? What do they say? What do they do, right? It's as simple as that. That is how we know everything. All right. Now, what's the common denominator? A lot. Exactly say shell tail from Don Thomas. You saw a picture of Don Thomas who's today, and you saw the actions that the YSL criminal shooting and talk about him. So here's yet another frame in a public picture of Don Thomas double watch. What are their details on it? This is exactly what Sledge publicly threatened him in 2015.
You little strip this ass nigga. We ain't really going back to no nigga. You little bitch ass nigga. I know who you hate. I'm never well. Yeah, fuck you nigga, Kel. Whoever else, nigga. Well, nigga. Whoa. They say they ain't really going back.
Damn.
I'll just use a okay.
Oh, here we go. What the hell? Damn it. Here we go. Done screwed the pooch once already. Got in trouble for saying nigga or something. I don't know. I'm 3.5% black. I get to say it. I'm good. African pygmy. That's me. It's just what the people say. My God, people lose their mess over stupidest thing. Richard Pryor would roll in his grave. Oh boy. Well, let's see if we can't catch up. So getting over the N-word usage here. I don't know. I had to call a damn bathroom break in a huddle. God forbid.
Now's not the time. Let's do that at lunch. 30 more minutes or so.
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
I think that screen maybe stopped working halfway through. So the other one, either the one above or the one, I think the one below doesn't work, or the one above. Let's switch it up a bunch.
I have never heard them say something like that so many times. It's like they don't know another word. It gets old.
Thank you. All right, I think y'all probably saw that your lunch is there. We've got about 30 more
I used
minutes.
to get-
Mr. Atkins
I used to get mad at clients
and
that
then
said
we'll break
talk
for
like
lunch and
that.
We'll come back and hear the defense. Okay, I'm sorry.
Here we go again.
So you saw that video, right?
Yeah.
And here we have same video.
Oh man.
Not lifetime too, because you have Chanel Drinks, Elder Watts in this post. And that is the projectile from that murdered Chanel Drinks and the projectile that murdered Donovan Thomas. Same victims, right? You had Donovan Thomas with Lucci, and you saw how they treated Lucci. Now Donovan Thomas with Kelvin Watts, and you saw the connection. Similar victims over time with different YSL co-conspirators committing crimes, often together. Not always the same, but similar patterns, which is important for RICO. Now, other connection. You heard about. You got to take Buddy's name out of the song in case it gets whacked.
I thought when I get wet, you know that should come down a little. Yeah.
Because it's going to come down on us. Just let you know that they know they try to toe the line to get right to where they can diss and op or say something, but have some deniability. And then this is that's Garmin. Get your whack. It doesn't. Yes, it's just.
God, can they stop playing music? God, they're gonna get me struck.
Demikion Garlington and DeMarco Boyer,
God.
who was those phone calls you heard about
Dang
at
it.
Chanel Drinks murder. So, what other connections do we have? Well, if you keep going, we talked about the drug sale, right? This is Durante Beatty. Who was with him? Darius Ford, right? This is back in 2020 at, I believe, 151 Cleveland. There's Darius Ford. Now, you have, should come up here. This is Rodelius Ryan and Durante Beatty, right? So remember this. Ford, Beatty, Ryan, it's like a 6 degrees of separation, 3 different crimes. So follow me here.
6 degrees of Kevin
This is Darius
Bacon.
Ford and Rodelius Ryan.
Right back, run through this shit. Yeah, she's fuck wrong with y'all, nigga. Right back, run through this shit. She's fuck wrong with y'all. Piece of this like shit.
Piece of this. This is Rodelius Ryan,
Man,
FYFN.
throw some of that cheddar my way.
Then
Holy
you have
moly.
Garlington, right? We got y'all boys. Ryan, Ford, this is Darius Ford, that's Christian Miller, that Garlington's posted, right?
$100
The YSL
bills.
Enterprise and how they view each other and if you exact violence on one
Damn.
hand, they're all going
About
to
$5,000 in his
Ryan
hand.
doing ops. It's for the gang. It's for the enterprise. And then if we keep going with this, this is 05 Drive Slim. This is Christian McMiller.
Could be
This
fake
is Rodelius
money.
Ryan.
They do
That's
make.
my business vibe, right? And he
prop
puts the
money.
heart emoji in the snake. Then you
I
have
had a
Darius Ford and
client.
Darius Ford, right?
I had a client once that actually got arrested for that, trying to use prop money to buy liquor.
Man,
So you know what they do.
barbecue, man. You spent
This is from Ryan's Instagram, right? Slap. This is SB. What's up? Using Garlington's Instagram to Rodelius Ryan, right? There's connections between the co-conspirators, and it shows a pattern where they commit crimes together. It may just be Darius Ford and BB selling drugs, but then also maybe shooting up all of these homes or murdering people, and they work in concert together. Now, it has to have
Maybe.
enterprise, right?
We don't really know.
It's got to have a
This
common
might
purpose. It has
be.
to have a common kind of ongoing nature. It doesn't have to be a formal like employee roster or something like that. It can be a loose or informal relationship amongst them. It's as simple as that. You've seen how the way that YSL, the common identifiers, and the way that they act and speak in concert shows that they have, I would argue, more than a loose relationship with one another. And determine that you can use the pattern to prove the enterprise. This is where the crimes themselves and how they're committed kind of help you. And is there an enterprise? Well, the way that they work in concert shows you that there is. and I misspelled. There's always one word in every slide, and I've checked this thing 20 times, so I apologize. Racketeering. I knew there'd be one. Okay. So is this a RICO, right?
Yeah, Uncle had wanted me to call you. So I got jumped on.
I know, that's why I was telling y'all, last time I told you, I think when Lamar leaving presentation, make sure y'all say him and he so niggas know
We
what
got
goes
he
on.
got up there, but see what Uncle was trying to see, they were saying it was a mob nigga, and I do nigga jumped on, bro.
That way we just heard the same thing too. That's why we trying to figure out who the fuck up there mall and folks jumped in with some YSL niggas and shit.
Yeah, that way Uncle trying to call you and see like who the hell.
So do it for Phil, right? Trying to get protection is with, and the other car was from Vegas Nichols after the murder of Chanel Drink. Talking about Unfunk. Do it for Phil, the person who's hashtag top shotter. Miles Farley, the same person who's in the Ford Fusion with Vegas Nichols when they're at the gas station and then pulls out behind Chanel Drinks, right? So you see this connection and support where when one goes in jail and someone tries to jump Farley, the gang gets protection, and they may use an allied gang. That's a pattern, and it's to further the enterprise. You don't want to get caught or get harmed. So take it a step further. This is Christian Eppinger, YSL Brish. That's Unfunk he's posting. Here's Eppinger, Wooney Lee, and Didi, right? Only the slimes all together. Now, when you have Unfunk, Garland, someone, so you have Eppinger in 2016 saying free Unfunk, right? Then in 2022, you have Christian Eppinger and Sumlin having that jail call to try to get Lucci. And then you have Unfunk and Garlington trying to get protection because YFN, the same group of Lucci, is trying to hurt Miles Farley. So there's connections between the acts. There's patterns in the interactions amongst each other. And if you take it a step further, then you have Wooney Lee with Shannon. You heard about No Slime Left Behind. Wooney Lee with Kendrick, actively promoting the gang. Yes, it may just be a photo. But when people think you murdered people, shot people, and got away with it, it has a different context to that. It has a much different context. What is Kenneth Copeland roughly 2 weeks before this indictment? How is he interacting? Right? He comes up here like everything's in the past. This is Kenneth Copeland.
He heard somebody. Oh, he been like a 43. They got a 43-man indictment. That was Tunk said.
I don't know.
Tunk.
Yeah, he heard, but you know, he probably.
Who the hell calls himself Mook Tunk?
Yeah. I had Jake out. What's the name of him? He just said Rico, I guess.
Rico, I guess.
Yo, he said. I don't know how true it is. I said that shit. That's off Instagram.
Better stay off Instagram. Not like Rico.
Yeah.
What Rico? I'm not a criminal enterprise, right? They're casual with Copeland, and they kind of let nation people. He's in this witness stand like, I'm a changed man, or I don't hang out with him anymore, right? This is him in April 23rd of 2022. If you look at the indictment date, it's May 19th.
Then why the hell did you give him immunity?
He said, told him about what happened, that all of these two defendants when they murdered Valentine. Think about that when you determine credibility in Rico. Take it a step further. You have something.
Y'all remember when the dude said, I done these crimes. I done these crimes. I killed all them people. And they let him go? Man.
Phone with Rudy. And that YSL stuff is hot. You need to take that down, right? And then at the very end of that, and I won't play the whole thing, but it's in evidence. They say, we need to take that YSL because it's hot, get off social media, right? So that shows you that they know, they just don't want to be caught. This RICO conspiracy, this is your verdict form. When we talked about A and B, it's going to look like this. As to conspiracy to violate subsection A, we the defendant. A, acquire and maintain property, knowingly and willfully conspire. B is those objectives I talked about. Did you participate in the enterprise, knowing and understanding that a pattern of racketeering, which remember, check the indictment.
What they're showing is the juror forms. That's what the jury will see.
Aggravated assault, intimidating witnesses. I mean, of course they did. But think about that when you look through this, because you have to decide, is it A or is it B? I believe it's both, but you can find either as a jury and you deliberate. And remember, some evidence can factor into both. The robberies can be A. The stolen guns can be A. They also can be a part of B when you create a pattern. And then on the bottom, it's going to ask you about guilty. Please identify on the next page the overt action find. So when you all agree unanimously on an overt act, and you got to find one after May 10th, 2017, the good news is there's plenty of the state has proven happened after that date. So they shouldn't be hard to find. You write them down. And if you need to write 50, write 50. If you need a pen, ask the court reporter. She'll come bring you an extra pen if y'all need to run out of ink. But fill it out on the form after this, once you all deliberate and talk through together. And you will find them guilty of the RICO enterprise when you look at the evidence and the common sense, reasonable inferences from all of it and some of these connections. I just gave you a few. I could do the 6 degrees of separation with multiple crimes throughout the case, but I tried to pick a couple to show you. And participation activity, this is much simpler. You know, the RICO enterprise and the criminal street gang is one in part the same. Criminal street gang activity is there is a gang, YSL. Clearly the evidence has shown at this point that YSL is a criminal street gang, right? Are they a part of that street gang? Do they commit criminal street gang activity? For purposes of this indictment, the judge will instruct you that the street gang charges, the firearm possessed during the drugs for Kendrick and the murder of Chanel Drinks for Shannon Stillwell, both murder and possession of firearm during commission of a felony, which is the drugs, are criminal street gang activity. So all you really have to decide in my mind is there a nexus to the street gang? And I'm going to, this goes on to explain criminal street gang activity, which the judge will tell you that for these crimes, they are street gang activity. You have to find Kendrick and Stillwell and the YSL street gang, which for all intents and purposes is the same as the criminal enterprise we've just been describing. And I'm going to, B is in order to maintain or increase status. So you'll see Shannon Stillwell has B. When he murdered Chanel Drinks, do you think that was in order to boost his YSL street cred and increase his status? Of course it was. He had no personal disagreement with Chanel Drinks. The only reason to murder him is because you saw all this public posting about get back, revenge, and he had that tweet I had earlier up the score. That, when Shannon Stillwell committed that murder, it was to further the street gang. There's no other reason that makes any sense. and it would certainly boost his common signs, symbols, and tattoos. I only have a snippet. This is very similar to the first witness belt map, right? Y'all have heard ample evidence of all these identifiers. You've heard about slime, the lizard, the snake, the green, the Copeland with the hand sign. Y'all are basically gang experts at this point, probably yourselves, because you've heard a lot about it, but it's important to show you the evidence over time. Tattoos, I've talked a lot about these. I think it's important to, please permanent YSL lifestyle. This is Trontavia Stevens, that's Antonio Sumlin, that's the Diamante Kendrick, Slime Life, YSL. And then you have face tattoos, Javon Fleetwood. Then you have Walter Murphy's gonna come up, and Christian Eppinger, public YSL tattoos on their face, essentially a walking billboard for the enterprise. And if you commit a crime with that on your face, it's to help let people know this is from YSL. Going a little bit further, 3 or more members, clearly there's 3 or more. RICO is 2 or more, gang, you need at least 3. So you can't have a gang of 2 under the law. It's the same principle. That block is easily checked as an element. This is just pictures of multiple. This is Rodelius Ryan adding all of the slimes. This is Kendrick, Copeland, Zachary, ball up in slimes back in 2014. And that's Trontavia Stevens, again, showing you how they publicly accept and acknowledge the gang, at least when they're outside of the courtroom. Going further, this is Quindarius Zachary, November 6th, 2014. Well, I'll keep going, but it's the video y'all watch where he says YSLD, big bullets, and he's pointing a gun at a camera. That's just him publicly. And then firearms, right? This criminal street gang is armed constantly. These are some examples of acts where this is Shannon Stillwell with that firearm, Trontavia Stevens with this firearm. Going further, that's Christian Eppinger with a stock of guns. YSL Brisk, who said they want smoke. That's Zachary, still don't know any better. YSL Lil D. They have these firearms because they use them. They're not sport hunting. They're not collecting them. They're shooting people with, as you've seen repeatedly. This is Waters Road, the drum magazine, double magazine where it's taped together. That was the stolen one from the cargo. I'm just showing you examples. And if you think about it, it's quite a lot of guns, either in photographs or physically introduced. Why do they need them? For the enterprise and for the context of this, the street gang. This is from May 9th, 2022. All of the guns in the home. Again, 2022 and 2015, they all are stopped and have and use firearms. That's the violence. That's the tool for the street gang. More firearms. This is from Rodelius Ryan in the middle with 6 firearms. This is Zachary with an AK, Zachary with an AK. This is Shannon Stillwell with nothing compatible in the trenches but a carbon, right? In 2020, over at Act 115. Over and over and over, they show you we have guns, we use guns. We're not afraid to use it. Believe them. The evidence is showing. Gang detectives, I'm not going to go through everything. I think you've heard a lot, right? And what they talked about was not fantasy. Gaither and Dennis, when they talked about getting woken up in the middle of the night with all of this 2015, they interviewed Walter Murphy, they interviewed Quindarius Zachary, they interviewed Copeland 6 times. Not an easy task. All of that stuff they did repeatedly. They didn't, and they all acknowledged it. This is Jeffrey Williams. The cops asked them all. They know my business in all the jurisdictions. They all testified about YSL Street Gang, identifiers, identified members. Are they all wrong? Are they all just, Gaither and Dennis are just making up crimes? No. YSL is a criminal street gang as shown by their actions. And Detective Belknap discussed the origins of Rock Crew, how it became YSL. He also mentioned how YSL, the street gang he started hearing about in schools before the record label was formed, and the rivalry between YSL and Inglewood family. I just simple 2 words, I guess it's 3. 2015 first wave. This is waves of violence and a tsunami of evidence about a criminal enterprise operating throughout. And the second wave, Rio told you about it. She told you about all these back and forth shootings in 2019 and 2020, and she talked about what was going on in just 1 month, March of 2022. And all of these social media, she was clipping by, it seemed like almost an hour, to show this public disrespect. Same group, same victims, same rivalry in YSL and YFN. Nothing has changed except time. That's how you know it's a criminal enterprise actively afloat. May 9th, 2022. So for Kendrick, he's with Duke, Martinez Arnold in 2015 when they're stopped by Trestle Tree. You've seen the photographs of the marijuana and the firearms. He's in Jeffrey Williams' house. This is in May of 2022. Him actively having this armed protection, firearms, and being in a house and then running when the police come with 2 other identified, documented street gang members. It furthers the gang's interest to have multiple YSL members together, even in one of their own homes, because as you've seen, they're going to always be armed and have firearms. So all you have to decide, in my opinion, if you meet the other elements, is there a street gang? Is there 2 or more members? Is his possession of the marijuana and firearm, collective construction, which Ms. Hilton will talk to you about, in furtherance of the gang, and I'll argue that it is. Shannon Stillwell's, when you talk about participation in criminal, I made it green to say found. Like I said, I don't need to belabor this much. I think it's quite obvious that Chanel Drinks is a textbook example of a gang murder, where they literally just shoot him because they happen to see him at a gas station. He's a rival that they're following Kelvin Watts and other postings that are dissing or alluding to the murder of McMillan Ford, and that's why he kills him. But you don't have a license to just kill who you want because they happen to be in an Instagram post or you think or they are associated with a rival gang. That's a boosted street cred within the gang. And then every slime plays nasty. What does Wing Lee say about that? Yeah, they can argue that they're just trying to watch the local basketball game on the nightly news.
The ESPN got blowing it down.
He's got a gun. It says ESPN because we're blowing people down. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This is Kendrick's tattoo. You're going to see, this is Miles Farley, ESPN tattoo on the back of his neck. This is going to be Christian Eppinger coming up here. Rise and Slime, ESPN. And I didn't clip it in there, but it's the song that Shannon Stillwell himself made where he literally said, every slime plays nasty. So these are common phrases, identifiers. And by nasty, they mean violence. You've seen it. Going a step further. Is this a street gang? This is going to be Wooney Lee and Rodelius Ryan.
Man, yeah, man, gang shit, man. We know what going, man. Yeah, man, slime getting shit, man. Man, that birthday shit, man. We need everything to man. For real. Can you get every tattoo on, man? Go spin it in. For real, no cap. It's in the business. That's what we know. Even the minister, even the minister, even the minister, when you be there, the God, without the license, without property, he said, "Clark, doesn't win in any body." Who's turning the streets to the party? I won't try to roll to a gangster.
Technology backed up on me, but it's their own words, right? Rebellious mind, it's slime business slack. I'm the BO. I'm the BO of this sex money murder set. Belknap, Baker, and Dennis talked about the sex money murder, where YSL is a subset of that, right? It's their own words. They're not hiding from it. They're not slapped on the finger. And then you're going to have, again, Miles Farley, when the OGs don't feed, it boosts up the crime rate, right? They're actively telling you what they're doing, which was in Rebellious Minds Instagram. You all saw this video. Again, take them at their word. Don't just take mine. Little baby rollout. For a small price. They do keep pistols and they do light people up, which means shooting at them. What is YSL about? I said the deception. You have the flash and the fame and the lifestyle. It's all a joke. And then you have the reality of YSL street gang members exacting violence on members of their own community repeatedly over the years with impunity. The intimidation. I think y'all all know well what we've shown and walked through, the violence publicly about witnesses who come in and testify, the way that people get YSL amnesia, as I call it, when they sit in the witness stand and they can't remember entire years of their life. It's not believable, except there's real fear and there's real trepidation to coming into a court and testifying. Destruction. I don't have to go on this long. It clearly has their actions and crimes have destroyed pockets of the communities in multiple communities in Fulton County. And death. You've heard about the murders that they've committed repeatedly. It's not just words. In Fulton County, you can get a driver's license, you can get a fishing license, but what you can't do as a criminal RICO enterprise is no one's above the law, and you don't have a license to kill, and you don't have a license to operate for impunity for a decade at citizens in Fulton County, because it doesn't matter in Fulton County if you're the richest, if you're the poorest, it doesn't matter anything about who you are. You don't deserve to be victimized. And a criminal enterprise has a lot more power and strength. And the crime that they've done, the pattern, the evidence, the agreement that they've had, publicly proclaiming it, is clear. That this RICO enterprise is very real. It's more than just a conspiracy. It's alive and active. They willingly and knowingly agree to it, and they don't think that anyone will hold them accountable. But as reasonable, fair-minded jurors, when you deliberate and walk through the evidence, and you compare the evidence with the law from the judge, there's no conclusion but guilty on count 1 RICO. And I argue it's both subsection A and B, but that's for y'all to decide. And these crime charges, the criminal street gang and RICO, I ask you guilty on all those counts. Ms. Hilt will talk to you after the defense, and we'll talk to you about why the defendants are guilty of the charged murders of Donovan Thomas and Chanel Drinks. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take our lunch break at this point. And let's take until 12:30.
All right, please.
On the jury charges that I sent, the overt act definitions include some that are previously defined, but on the possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony and possibly by a convicted felon, we will go back during lunch and make sure that the previous definition, when it's in the counts, covers only the crimes that these two defendants will be charged with, and that there may be others, so we may have to kind of do a little definition of those again to make sure that it includes whatever crimes might be alleged in the overt act. So that's one change that's going to need to be made. All right, see y'all back.
And they go into a break. Now let's move forward a little bit here. Oh. Was that it? Don't tell me that was it. What? No, it can't be. Man, I missed it. I stepped up into the bathroom. That's it.
On the jury charges that I sent, the overt act definitions.
This is going to be Christian Eppinger coming up here. Rise and Slime, ESPN, and I didn't clip it in there, but the song that Shannon Stillwell himself made where he literally says every slime plays nasty. So these are common phrases, identifiers, and by nasty, they mean violence. You've seen it. Going a step further. Is this a street gang? This is going to be Wooney Lee and Rogelio
Fuck
Slime.
that, man, yeah, man, gang shit, man, you know what the fuck going, man, yeah, man, slime be the shit, man. Man, happy birthday to you, man, we need everything to you, man, you know me for real. Can you get every tattoo on me, man? But say again, for real, no cap, man, slack this. If in a minute, that's what we know. If in a minute, that's what we know. If in a minute, that's what we know. If in a minute,
Right? It's their own words. They're not hiding from it. They're not.
That's going to be another strike.
And then
They
you're
just
gonna
keep
have,
throwing it in there.
again, Miles Farley, when the OGs don't feed,
All right,
they boost
I'm
up the
going to skip
primary, right?
ahead.
They're actively telling you what they're doing.
And now I'm
Which is again what
aggravated.
Rogelio Slime's Instagram.
Went
You
to the
also have video.
bathroom looking for a
Again, take that
cable,
out their word. Don't
and all this happens. I thought Love was going to talk.
Now's not the time. Let's do that at lunch. 30 more minutes or so. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I guess not. Wow. Shocked. Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's no way he didn't talk or she didn't talk. It's impossible. Y'all let me know if I missed something. Golly. There's no way those two women didn't talk. God, man, I hate when this happens. Well, damn, how long at lunch do they take? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess that was it. They didn't take they didn't present anything. I'll be damned. Okay.
County.
Cool. Rock on. All right. Man, I hate that though. Dang. Looking for a cable. And it took that long. That much happened. Unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. Just y'all let me know if I missed something. We'll see.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Sharp, you may present your closing.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Wow. That was it? He was the only one who presented closing for the state? That's impossible.
Are easy to make. Allegations
No way.
are easy to wage. And this indictment has plenty of both. But here's the thing.
You tell him, Max.
There's a big difference between making allegations and proving them in court beyond a reasonable doubt to the citizens of Fulton County. It's a different matter entirely. The state has spent the past year with a hammer.
A year on this case. And they still want to try Trump. Good luck.
Banging, trying so hard to fit that square peg into the round hole that they call their narrative, their theory. And the reality is that square peg does not fit in that round hole. It never fit. The state hasn't proven their case, and they certainly haven't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. In this indictment, the state accused Shannon Stillwell in count 1 of violating conspiring to violate the Georgia RICO Act. He did not. They have not proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm going to ask you to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty. In count 2, the state alleged that Shannon Stillwell on January 10, 2015, shot and killed Donovan Thomas. He did not. The state hasn't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm going to ask you to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty of count 2. In counts 49 through 50.
I'm going to laugh if this is all he
The state has
does.
alleged that Shannon Stillwell on March 14, 2022
I go
shot
die
and
laughing.
killed Shamel Drinks. He did not. The state has not proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm
We
going to ask you
rest.
to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Good
Oh,
afternoon,
no.
ladies and gentlemen.
I do it.
I think I've made this abundantly
Oh,
clear over the
man.
past year. My name is Max Shard, and I represent Shannon Stillwell. But that's not the entire story. In fact, I have been joined by my co-counsel, Mr. David Botts, my wonderful legal assistant, Shaquille Kokomo, and it's been our honor
Kokomo.
to represent Mr.
Way
Shannon
down
Stillwell
in Kokomo.
throughout this process. And I'm excited for the opportunity to talk to all of you about the evidence that we have heard over this past year. But before we get started with that, I want to acknowledge you, the jurors. I want to acknowledge the immense time commitment that you have given this case. I want to acknowledge the sacrifice to your family, the sacrifice to your job, the sacrifice to your vacation plans. I want to acknowledge the patience that you have shown me and all the other attorneys. And I want to acknowledge the attention that you have shown this case. It's greatly appreciated. I acknowledge the fact that you have been paying close attention to this case. And for that reason, I'm going to try to avoid rehashing every piece of evidence. I'm going to try to be as direct and concise as possible to avoid unnecessarily taking up too much
Unlike the state.
of your time. Mr. Kokomo, if you could put this up.
Kokomo. I can't get over that guy's name. I'm sorry. That's just funny.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get into it, okay? Count one, as the state discussed in their opening, Mr. Stillwell is charged with conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. And essentially, they're saying he conspired to acquire, maintain directly or indirectly an interest in and control of United States currency and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. And while associated with an enterprise, did unlawfully conspire to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's a lot of words. That's a mouthful. And we're going to get to talking about what that means, what it doesn't mean, how it applies to the evidence that's been presented in this case. But before we even get there, I want to talk to you about a big part of the state's case in count one, but also the other counts that they allege against my client. And that is the state's use of quote unquote expert witnesses, more specifically the gang investigators.
Yeah, here we go. Those retards.
Page 4. They've called, as you probably recall, a gentleman named Belknap, investigator Underwood.
Get a 1 in the chat if you think they're retarded. It's experts.
Investigator Viverito. Some of those people they've called multiple times in this case. And
put a 1 in the chat if you think Viverito's corrupt.
And what your duties as jurors are to consider how much weight the testimony of those witnesses, those quote unquote self-proclaimed experts. You'll be given this jury instruction 130 about expert witnesses, and I'm going to focus on the second paragraph. It says, you are not required to accept the testimony of any witnesses, expert or otherwise. Testimony of an expert, like that of all witnesses, is to be given only such weight and credit as you think it is properly entitled to receive. So, and Mr. Atkins talked about this in his opening a little bit. Expert witnesses are just like any other witness, and you're going to be instructed on how to evaluate the credibility of any witness, not just lay witnesses, but experts as well. And there's some factors that the honorable court is going to give you to consider in evaluating the credibility and evaluating how much weight to give these witnesses. Some of the factors are their manner of testifying, how they come across at the stand, how they act, their means and opportunity of knowing facts for which they testify, their interest or lack of interest in the outcome of the case. Are they biased? And their personal credibility as you observe it. Those are all factors you can consider when evaluating Investigator Gaither, Investigator Dennis, Investigator Viverito. So let's talk about the testimony and what we observed from the stand from these experts. I'd like to talk to you about their training. What did we learn about their training, all these experts? Well, we heard GGIA, Georgia Gang Investigators Association. We heard that a lot, how there's 20 members. Remember, and we asked about what your training is, and they say, well, I go to the 2-day seminar every year. GGIA, there's 20 members. And then we learn who teaches at these seminars. Remember Detective Underwood? Remember Detective Underwood? And Detective Underwood was a nice lady, but she was sent up here on a fool's errand. They wanted her to testify about the intersection of gangs and music. And she clearly wasn't qualified. She knew almost nothing about music. But she said, yeah, I'm qualified because I think I did a 2-hour block a couple years ago on that. Okay. I think Viverito taught that class. Okay. So now Viverito is the teacher. So I asked her, I said, oh, very interesting. You took a 2-hour class a couple years ago in this subject, and that makes you an expert. Okay. Did you guys hear from any experts in Black history, Black art, any literature professors, anyone that has studied hip hop, anyone from the hip hop community, anyone from the community at large, when you guys all meet, the 20 of you, to talk about gang stuff at this seminar? Nope. It was just Investigator Viverito. Okay, what about scholarly reports? Nope, just Investigator Viverito. The more we ask these witnesses, these experts, about what their training is, what their background is, what their basis for testifying as experts and telling us how to analyze things, telling us what certain words mean, telling us what's gang related or not, telling us what's relevant and what's not. It all stems from these meetings, this echo chamber that they have, where they hear from no one else, no outside voices at all. And they all call each other experts. And they even created an association to look official. Talk about their manner of testifying, excuse me. Think about Lieutenant Gaither when she was on the stand. Remember when I was allowed to ask questions? I tried to ask her some questions when they weren't vague. Did she really want to answer my questions? You know, you see on direct with the state, back and forth, it's like a tango. Yeah, it's a script. Then I get up, where another defense attorney gets up to ask questions. Can't get a simple answer for anything. What color is the sky? Oh, let me tell you about the FedEx video. Just commentary. Same thing with Investigator Viverito. Just unnecessary commentary. Avoiding answering questions that I ask. Clearly, Investigator Dennis was doing the same thing. He's out of here. He was sent home. Consider the manner that they testify and how much weight and credibility they really have in this matter. Think about their interest and lack of interest in the case, also known as their bias. Mr. Kokomo, would you put up Mr. Williams 70A?
Yeah, man, that was funny when she did that to him. God, man, it was funny. I ain't never seen that, by the way.
Remember Lieutenant Gaither getting up there? Oh, yeah, I saw that. This was important. This was a symbol of a gang war. This is the gang war that was going on. This is
the hell is that?
Bird gang, which is an offshoot of the If gang. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. She told you that. As sure as can be, the expert that y'all are supposed to rely on. But what did my good friend, Attorney Brian Steele, do? Brought in the album cover. Wait a second. You're saying that this is a hawk skull and a gang war? Isn't this an album cover of a collaboration between my client, Young Thug, this is Attorney Steele, Young Thug, and
great.
Future? And isn't his label Free Bands? And isn't Future's Free Bands mascot an eagle? Isn't this album cover just signifying the collaboration between the eagle and the snake? Doesn't that make more sense? After all, that's exactly what the album is. Oh, okay.
Man, he's got it going on today.
Remember this? Let's go with us for 471 DB.
Woody Lee. Oh my
Actually,
gosh.
put up 471 DBA first.
The guy with tree trunks on his head. Yeah, freaking tree trunks just like this.
Actually, BB.
Mr. Kokomo's in the testifying
Brought this
booth.
into evidence. Said this was one of the social media posts.
He's in the
that she
dock.
wrote. Remember that? When she wrote no reports about pulling social media, we have no idea what she looked at, what she didn't. She just determines what's relevant. Not us. Not you. You don't get to see that. She determines. Remember? This came into evidence. She said, of course, she didn't give us a date because she wrote no report, but she said she collected this shortly after shooting.
She wrote no report. Snap!
What you saying? I run with cold-blooded killers. That's from Marvius Nichols. That looks pretty bad. Looks bad. It's posted the day after this killing, and it's a post, and clearly that's what it says. No other explanation. And then what do we find out later? Could you put on 471 DB? Can you play it, Mr. Kokomo? We find out that this was part of a post, a story that had a bunch of different posts about fear of roller coasters, about being sick, a whole bunch of different things. And then we finally get to the part where it has the lyrics from Young Boy Never Broke Again, right? Let's watch. We don't even see these lyrics. Why don't we see them on this post? Because they're on for a millisecond in the very beginning of the switch. And we hear about Instagram and how those aren't really words that Mr. Nichols would have typed. Those are words from a song that he picked. And sometimes you pick the lyrics if you want, and sometimes Instagram picks them for you. But what else do we see from watching the
I
entire
knew
post?
they were
Those
not
weren't even featured
talented.
lyrics. The lyrics were being transitioned to the lyrics that either Instagram or Mr. Nichols picked. But in a split millisecond, for whatever reason, these lyrics that Investigator Viverito so desperately wanted you guys to see were on the screen. And so what did Investigator Viverito do? She gets the post. She goes frame by frame until it gets to that exact point where it has what she feels looks like incriminating words by Mr. Nichols. Words that weren't even picked by him. And she freezes it, and she screenshots it, and then she puts it in front of you. Again, no report about what she did. She manipulated the evidence. And she's caught. But what does that tell you about her?
Stealing
When
watches.
we're talking about assessing credibility, your lack of interest in the case, your bias. Does she have an agenda when she does things like that?
Yeah,
Of course
she
she
stole
does.
watches. 2 Richard
She's not a
Mills.
neutral witness.
About
She might not be sitting here. Why do you think they do
$150,000
that?
a piece. 2.
Personal credibility as you observe it. Mr. Kokomo, can you put that other exhibit?
Mr. Kokomo. I can't get over the guy's name.
530 VV, this is the affidavit. Remember we learned about affidavits, and Investigator Viverito was looking into the assassination attempts that she was of Mr. Rashawn Bennett in the jail. She wanted to search Jeffrey Williams' home, right? And so she had to fill out an affidavit to give it to a judge to get permission to convince the judge, basically, to give her permission to search Jeffrey Williams' home for evidence. So what did she do? She finds a conversation, a text thread, where Mr. Williams says, YSL rule the world, hid 24M on an N head. And she
Man, just say the damn word.
and circles it for the judge to draw attention to that, because of course she wants the judge to feel that Mr. Williams is
24M.
ordering hits on people. That's the implication. That's the message she's sending the judge.
Man,
And
dude
here
is
I am.
not putting $24 million
I know
on.
how
Give me
Jeff
a
Williams,
damn
Jeffrey
break.
Williams Ford that Mr. Steele brought in about the day before this.
He
this
rich,
text
but he
thread
ain't that
about
damn
Lil Uzi
rich.
Vert putting a $24 million diamond into his own forehead, and Jeffrey Williams thinking that's
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
That conversation
That
happening.
is
And it's
weird.
having nothing to do with ordering hits on anyone. And here I am. I say, oh, let me confront Investigator Viverito with this. And what was my
does
problem?
that?
What should have happened? Oh, yeah, I misinterpreted that. You're right. And then I would have been Mr. Smart Lawyer and said, see, jurors, Investigator Viverito doesn't always know what she's talking about. She misinterpreted that one when she's telling you what my client means when he says things, what other people mean when they say things. Investigator Viverito doesn't know. She makes mistakes. That's what I thought was going to happen. But what happened? Something far darker. Investigator Viverito sat in that chair and said, she doubled down. And she said, you know what? Even knowing what I know now about 24M on N's head, even knowing what I know now, I would still put it in that affidavit. That's all I needed to hear. Yeah, I would mislead a judge. Yeah, I would lie in an affidavit. Yeah, I would cheat because I'm that invested in this case. I'm that invested with taking these guys down. I'm that invested.
I hope she ain't still a damn cop. She probably is. Police officer standards and training probably still ain't done nothing to her.
You don't have to believe what they say. You can disregard everything they say. The law allows you to do that.
That
When they
is
say,
true.
oh, this is a hybrid gang, and they can't even explain what that means or why it's classified as a hybrid gang, and it's just something that they come up with at their little private meetings every year at these 2-day seminars where they don't get input from anyone else. You don't have to buy that. It's not a hybrid gang. All right. Let's start talking about count one. Ms. Kokomo, if you could put page 14 up for me. And I did not envy Mr. Atkins because this is very complicated to even discuss. But essentially, the way I'm going to try to break this down is that the state needs to prove all elements.
Yeah, remember I talked about this earlier.
All elements
What they
of
got to
the case,
prove.
each and every element. And I'm going to focus on two different aspects as relates to the case and still it's RICO case. Count one. The knowing and willfully conspired with one or more others.
You got to show
participate
one
in the
and
enterprise
A
through
and
pattern of
B.
racketeering activity. So that's the first thing we're going to focus on.
It's like a flow
Whether
chart.
It's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Knowingly and willfully. Not he was just there, not he just hangs around, knowingly and willfully conspired. And then the second part that we're going to focus on a little bit later is number 6 and 7. That someone committed, or that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that someone committed an overt act to further the criminal objective of this conspiracy. So, thank you, Mr. President. So when we're talking about the question about whether Mr. Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to basically take part in racketeering activity, a pattern of racketeering activity, I think we have to look at this whole case in context. I think we have to consider the origin story of what everyone's calling YSL, whatever you want to call it. The state seems to suggest that a bunch of people all came together to commit crimes. Just a big conspiracy. We're all going to come together and we're going to be a racketeering organization. That's not the case. Now, let me be clear. Of course, crimes were committed. Crimes were committed by people with YSL tattoos on their face. Crimes were committed by people that use YSL emojis on social media. Crimes, I'm sure, were committed by people that use the word slap. But that's not the issue here. The issue is whether Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to be part of this RICO organization. We've heard from different young men, and again, we heard from them in the year 2024, talking about things that happened in 2012, 2013. So please keep in mind, when you see a 28-year-old testifying in 2024, we're talking about maybe a 16-year-old back in 2012. And we've heard testimony from people from Cleveland Avenue. We heard from Walter Murphy. We heard from Trontavia Stevens. We heard testimony from people from Capitol Homes. We heard from Quindarius Zachary. We heard from Antonio Sledge. We know that my client, Mr. Stillwell, is from Thomasville. We know that he was raised by his grandmother. His mother was never part of his life due to her drug addiction. We know about these communities, about poverty, about the lack of education. I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush. This does not apply to everyone in these communities. But as a whole, we know the struggles that these communities have had. Lack of education, underemployment, drug addiction, kids looking for food, sharing clothes with peers, hopelessness, a sad, tacit acceptance that it's either rap, prison, or death. That's the reality where a lot of these kids at the time were living. And the state, throughout their presentation of this case, has played several videos of people, of young people in parking lots, at parks. Some of them might have a gun, using foul language. Someone might be smoking marijuana. Some might be saying slap. A lot of times people are, and it's kind of sad to watch, a lot of people talking about all the stuff they got when we all know they really don't have anything. About all the cars they own. Remember that one gentleman? Oh yeah, I'm getting my daughter this, I'm getting my son that car. Cap. We saw those videos and I'm watching all these videos and I'm wondering, what's the point? Why is the state playing this? Just to show like bad kids or who they feel are bad kids, just to show who they feel are future criminals. Like, what's the point of these videos that are really sad to watch? And then they play this video, and it's marked 54W, and I'm going to ask Ms. Kokomo to pull it up, but not play it yet. And it's a video where you see a group of people hanging out in the park, in a parking lot in the park, and you see Jeffrey Williams. Shannon Stillwell's not in this video. And you see Jeffrey Williams leaning on a car, and you see his emaciated body. You see his teeth that are rotten. He's wearing pants that are clearly too short, too small, clearly been handed down, traded. They didn't come out of Phipps Plaza. You see him wearing an Alabama Letterman jacket. And I'm not talking about like the cool Letterman jacket that you might get at Mitchell & Ness. That's where you get like high-priced sporting goods, throwback stuff. Not cool like that. Like one that was probably made in the 80s. The Letterman the sleeves are all nasty, and the thing comes down to like his navy. And people are picking at him. Not in a harmful way, but picking at him, picking at his clothes. Go ahead, Mr. Kokomo.
Hold on, look. My partner say, man, that's all this way. Hold on, let me ride it out. Hold on. My nigga, good self, he's king of white flag, right? So no one time, let these folks see what you're doing now. All right, you check them out now.
What happens there? I think about when I was young. If I had to I might lash out at people picking at me. But what happens there? Jeffrey Williams takes those clothes, those tattered clothes, those old clothes, those ill-fitting clothes, and he twists it. He turns it around. Now, these aren't rags. This ain't nothing to be ashamed of. This is white boy swag. This is swag. Think about that for a second. What that means. I'm not suggesting Shannon Stillwell saw that video, but that mindset. I'm not ashamed where I came from. In fact, I'm going to turn it into a positive. I'm going to turn it into a sense of pride. And lo and behold, what happens? Everyone starts wearing skinny jeans. Now think about if you're Walter Murphy. Think about if you're Trontavious Stevens in that Cleveland Avenue neighborhood. You're struggling. You're dealing with the same things that Jeffrey Williams is. And you're ashamed and you don't feel good about yourself. But then all of a sudden you see someone with confidence. Someone that's not ashamed. And all of a sudden, you know what else? They can rap. And people are starting to pay attention. And the shows start being booked. And 1 second it's around the corner. Next second it's up the street. And then all of a sudden it's downtown Atlanta. Think about the pride. If you have nothing and you see someone that you know making it and making it on his terms with that level of confidence. Now think about if you're Shannon Stillwell, raised by your grandmother, facing many of the same issues that Jeffrey's talking about, that he's rapping about, that these young men in Cleveland Avenue are facing, many of the same challenges. And then you also want to be a rapper. And all of a sudden, this person that you can identify with, this person that has the confidence you wish you had, this person that's taking everything negative and turning it into a positive. And then he raps too. And it's all blowing up in your backyard. And you want to be a musician. And you want to go into the studio. And you want studio time. And you know Jeffrey Williams and his friends have studio time. Because now they have backing. And studio time ain't cheap. And you want connections. And you know he has connections. And you know those connections have paid off. D-Slime, we know he's been on songs with D-Slime. Vito, a songwriter for 300 Entertainment. Dolly, Rooney Lee, a signed artist. Shannon's been on songs with him. If you're Shannon Stillwell, isn't that exactly where you want to be? Isn't that exactly who you'd want to associate with? Not to conspire to violate any RICO laws. You want to be there because he's doing what you want to do and you are identifying with him. What have we learned about this quote unquote gang that they're saying exists? You know, Detective Belknap, first time he testified, talked about gangs and talked about red and blue don't mix. They have a solid hierarchy and structure, strict rules, chain of command. You're beaten in. You can't get out. If you try to get out, you're beaten out. If you're false flagging, if you're claiming to be part of the gang and you're not, severe repercussions occur. Well, what do we know about YSL?
Man, ain't nobody been spoken about being beat in.
Many of them have
Please.
known Jeffrey Williams since they were little, who are thrilled for his success, who are living through him. Well, there's no initiation, no dues, no money sharing at all, no rules or organizational structure, no hierarchy, no rules about false flagging. Anyone can do it. Everyone does do it. People all over the world wiping their nose. It's not false flagging because it's not a gang. When LeBron James does it, he's not false flagging because there's no gang. He's showing he identifies with the movement. He identifies with the confidence.
Wiping my nose.
Jeffrey Williams shows.
Well, I do that right now.
Negative into positive. There's no gender rules in YSL. And there's no exclusions. You a square? You're in. Sure. Whatever you want. You're a blood? Yeah, you can hang out. You're a Crip? Yeah, you can hang out. You're not affiliated at all? Yeah, you can hang out. You an athlete? Sure, you can hang out. You a musician? Yeah, you can hang out. You a nerd? Yeah, you can hang out. No one's sending anyone away because it's not a game. It's not exclusive. The only people that say this is a gang are those people that all talk to each other at GGIA, at the Georgia Gang Investigators Association. They don't want to hear from anyone else. They just want to have their conclusions. Those people are also very biased in this case. So, has the state proven that Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to participate in an enterprise or a pattern of racketeering activity? Well, Mr. Atkins says, well, he killed Donovan Thomas, so that's proof right there. Well, that's pretty circular logic. He didn't kill Donovan Thomas. Well, he killed Jamal Drakes. That's proof right there. No, he didn't kill Jamal Drakes. What have they proven Shannon Stillwell has done to say that he knowingly and willfully conspired to do anything other than to be around Jeffrey Williams and try to make music and further his rap career and be around people that he identified with? Okay. He's been in social media pictures with many of the people that he hangs out with. Okay. He uses the word slat. He uses a green snake emoji. Okay. A lot of people do that. He posted, he spends time in a recording studio with other people that know Jeffrey Williams. Yeah, of course he does. He makes rap videos and posts them online. Yep. Are his friends in the videos? Yep. He uses hand signs such as wiping his nose. Yeah. Post video. The state played one video in their closing about Shannon Stillwell calling out Game. Look at the bottom of that video. What's it say? Baller alert. Shannon wants to be a rapper. It's picked up on Baller Alert. It's aggregated throughout the internet. This is not coming off of Shannon's Instagram feed. This is national. Think about how many eyes are seeing that. Someone that no one knows calling out, trying to pick a fight with a well-known rapper, The Game. It's exactly what any music person, not necessarily a lawyer, I wouldn't tell Shannon to do that, but it's exactly what any music person would tell Shannon, who's trying to make it in the rap game. They would tell him to do exactly that, get noticed. That doesn't mean he's knowingly and willfully conspiring to be part of any RICO organization. Mr. Kokomo, will you please put up page 13? This photo was put in by Attorney Steele. Who's going to tell LeBron that he's acting like a RICO conspirator? Who's going to tell LeBron that he's now a hybrid gang member? In fact, we just heard what the state said about wiping the nose, man, according to the gang experts. Who's going to tell LeBron that he's like ordering a hit in the middle of NBA warmups? Does that make any sense? Is what the gang investigators say, should we really take it? Hook, line, and sinker? I suggest we should not.
Had to fix my mic, sorry.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the state's attempt to prove the commission of an overt act in furtherance of a criminal objective. And mind you, they have to prove all of these elements beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's not like I have to show everyone did not.
They don't have to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt, but it damn well needs to be a high standard.
A reminder, this isn't just about people.
Juries don't take that into account anymore.
There's no doubt
Bad.
People that are in social media posts that are in evidence in this case, there's no doubt that people with YSL tattoos, there's no doubt that people that say slat have committed crimes. No one's disputing that. Isolated crimes by an individual or a group of individuals that have nothing to do with any alleged conspiracy cannot be overt acts. It's not just crimes or other acts that are alleged against people associated with YSL. The acts must further the criminal objectives of the alleged conspiracy. So what do they focus on? They focus on, first of all, oddly, artistic expression. Jeffrey's lyrics. Like we're just going to pretend there's not a thing called rap music. We're going to pretend there's not a thing called artistic license. We're going to pretend there's not a thing called YSL, the record label. And when Jeffrey says slat in a song or slime in a song, which is recognized worldwide and is popular and sells albums, we're going to pretend that there's no context to this, and we're just going to pretend that all these lyrics are somehow designed to further a RICO organization. That's absurd. We're going to pretend Shannon Stillwell's statements about bragging about beating a murder rap, which is good for his music career, is somehow furthering some criminal objectives of some conspiracy. That's absurd. They list in their list of overt acts a bunch of social media posts. Social media posts of people with tattoos on their face. Nothing else. Just, he took a picture with a tattoo on his face. Or wearing slime clothing or Make America Slime Again clothing. Clothing created, mind you, by Miles Farley, a person who was able to, again, turn negative into positive and turn that movement that was going on in Cleveland Avenue in a way for him to make money through selling clothing, for him to provide to his family. Turns out, Miles Farley
excuse me.
subscribed
I didn't mean to cough on my
your options
camera.
are athlete, entertainer, dead, or jail. He decided to design clothes.
Damn.
And what's his reward? You're part of a conspiracy. What does the state say were these overt acts? Well, they list a lot of petty drug selling. We heard from Trontavia Stevens. I don't know if you remember, but it was a long time ago, I know. But he talked about being pulled over. And I made sure to ask him. And he wasn't denying that he had a bag of weed on him. I said, hey, man, who went in on you with you on that bag of weed? I bought it. Okay, yeah, but when you sold it and made a profit, who are you going to share the money with? And look at me like I was crazy. Man, this is a $100 bag of weed. I ain't sharing money with anyone. I'm a drug dealer. I buy drugs and I sell drugs and I make a profit and I keep the profit. What evidence have we seen at all that any of this petty drug dealing had anything to do with
Entrepreneurs.
some criminal
He's
enterprise.
an entrepreneur.
That's they list gun possession.
That's pretty
2019, they
funny.
say Shannon Stillwell was possession of a gun in furtherance of the criminal objectives of the
I'm sure
conspiracy.
he had lots of guns.
Man, we have heard ever since Shannon Stillwell was falsely accused of killing Donovan Thomas in 2015 about people shooting at his head, people shooting at the car he's in. People are trying to kill him. And you think he's possessing a gun as some furtherance of some conspiracy? Does that make any sense? He's trying to survive. The murder of Jamari Holmes, tragic event, horrible, complete waste of 3 lives. Jamari Holmes, Rodelius Ryan, and Mr. Blaylock, 3 teenagers, senselessly, all lose their lives to varying degrees. Jamari Holmes obviously loses his life in the most real sense. Absolute tragedy. No one's going to say otherwise. This list is an overt act in furtherance of the criminal objectives of the alleged conspiracy. It was like a 15-year-old doing something incredibly stupid. What objectives was that furthering? It wasn't. It's an isolated act committed by someone who screams out YSL and screams out SLAT. But that doesn't mean it's furthering any conspiracy. We hear about Jaden Myrick. First of all, who the heck is Jaden Myrick? I know they put him on this indictment, like to try to say, oh yeah, he's a co-conspirator in this too. But they're the ones that put his name on this indictment. What have we heard about Jaden Myrick? We ever hear about Jaden Myrick ever meeting Shannon Stillwell? Do we have any indication that Jaden Myrick knows Shannon Stillwell? What about Jeffrey Williams? Any indication that Jaden Myrick knows Jeffrey Williams? Who the heck's Jaden Myrick? But some dope in the jail that's looking to make money by doing something incredibly stupid and attacking Rashawn Bennett. So he calls another dope, and they come up with their own little plan, but it has nothing to do with some broad conspiracy that Shannon Stillwell willfully and knowingly joined. We heard about jail calls. They're all listed as overt acts. Cordelius Dorsey calling Antonio Sumlin. Hey, I want you to attack some guy named Victor Meadows. I think his name was. I can't even remember the guy's name. Has nothing to do with this case. And Antonio Sumlin's like, what? And he's like, okay, man. And he hangs up the phone and doesn't do anything about it ever again. Is that furthering a conspiracy? And this was the coup de grace. Christian Eppinger has an armed robbery arrest warrant out for him. And the police jump out on him, unmarked police, and say, get down, boy. And he has a gun. And he gets into an officer and shoots. And runs. And then another officer shoots at him and he shoots back and he continues to run. Somehow the state is alleging that Christian Eppinger, no one else is there. No one's saying, hey, Christian Eppinger, do this for YSL. Christian Eppinger trying to avoid arrest, trying to stay free, completely isolated from anything else going on in this case. Somehow Christian Eppinger doing that making an idiotic decision to shoot an officer to avoid being arrested. Somehow that is in furtherance of some conspiracy that Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully joined. Doesn't make any sense. In review of count 1, ladies and gentlemen, YSL is many things. It's not a gang, full-fledged or hybrid, and it's certainly not a RICO enterprise. Shannon Stillwell, in associating himself with Jeffrey Williams and Trontavious Stevens and Quamarvius Nichols, his good friend, and Miles Farley and others, and Woomy Lee, he wasn't knowingly and willfully conspiring with anyone to participate in any enterprise aimed at a pattern of racketeering activity. He was in the mix. He was trying to make music. He was also, coincidentally, if we're being honest, he was selling drugs. He wasn't sharing with anyone. He wasn't sharing the profits. He was selling drugs and trying to make music. And he was around the right people to be trying to do that with, because those connections were going to, in his mind, further his music career, which is what he wanted. And no overt acts were ever committed in furtherance of any conspiracy that Shannon Stillwell. It's not a gang, full-fledged or hybrid, and it's certainly not a RICO enterprise. Any conspiracy? We hear about Jaden Myrick. First of all, who the heck is Jaden Myrick? I know they put him on this indictment, like to try to say, oh yeah, he's a co-conspirator in this too. But they're the ones that put his name on this indictment. What have we heard about Jaden Myrick? We ever hear about Jaden Myrick ever meeting Shannon Stillwell? Do we have any indication that Jaden Myrick knows Shannon Stillwell? What about Jeffrey Williams? Any indication that Jaden Myrick knows Jeffrey Williams? Who the heck's Jaden Myrick? But some dope in the jail that's looking to make money by doing something incredibly stupid and attacking Rashawn Bennett. So he calls another dope, and they come up with their own little plan, but it has nothing to do with some broad conspiracy that Shannon Stillwell willfully and knowingly joined. We heard about jail calls. They're all listed as overt acts. Cordelius Dorsey calling Antonio Sumlin. Hey, I want you to attack some guy named Victor Meadows. I think his name was. I can't even remember the guy's name. Had nothing to do with this case. And Antonio Sumlin's like, what? And he's like, okay, man. And he hangs up the phone and doesn't do anything about it ever again. Is that furthering a conspiracy? And this was the coup de grace.